Chapter 658. Suddenly, a black demonic cloud burst forth from Langtu Mountain. Its might was magnificent and its momentum was powerful. Not only did it cover the entirety of Langtu Mountain, it even crossed the southern end of the western mountain range and extended all the way to the Kunwu mountain range. Inside the Black Devil aura, two people could be vaguely seen confronting each other. One was dressed in black and looked somewhat petite, while the other was hidden in the black clouds, so their appearances couldn't be seen clearly. Master! Nie Wuxiang stared fixedly at the person in the black clouds. Admit defeat. Although I've just reached the middle stage, you haven't fully recovered from your serious injuries, and your body isn't compatible. You can't beat me. A cold snort came from the black clouds. Master Song Feng said gloomily, "Bitch, do you think I don't know? Even so, your strength is still inferior to mine. You're just using words to provoke me, that's all." As soon as he finished speaking, the black clouds suddenly swelled up. A destructive aura emerged from the originally gloomy darkness, transforming into many terrifying devils that tore at Nie Wuxiang. Nie Wuxiang didn't move, but a ribbon burning with black flames appeared in front of her and went to meet those devils. Upon seeing this, Master Song Feng's black clouds suddenly swayed. "Bitch!" A voice came from the black clouds. "I've raised you for so many years in vain. If you hadn't stolen my treasure, how could I have fallen into this situation?" The treasure Nie Wuxiang used to defend herself was precisely from Master Song Feng. She clenched her teeth behind the ribbon, resisting the invasion of the devils. She sneered and said, "Could it be that you still want to settle accounts with me? Such a ridiculous thing doesn't seem like something you do, Master." He didn't want to talk to her about the kindness of sparing her life and raising her to adulthood. Life wasn't a clear account of income and expenditure. After adding and subtracting, the kindness and enmity could be offset. She only knew that her mother died in his hands, and her life was also ruined in his hands. Such enmity was engraved in her bones day and night. Master Song Feng didn't say anything. In a flash, 3 black lines flew out from the devil clouds and entangled Nie Wuxiang. A huge black flower suddenly bloomed between Nie Wuxiang's hands. The petals unfolded and surrounded her whole body. The 3 black lines hit the flower petals and stopped. The 2 sides began to wrestle. Right now, Nie Wuxiang was under unimaginable pressure. Those 3 black threads were Master Song Feng's secret technique, which took him several hundred years to nurture. Each thread carried the power of primordial devil that could shake one's primordial spirit. Every time he used it, he would consume his own cultivation, so Master Song Feng wouldn't use it easily. But today, not only did he use this technique, but he even used all 3 techniques at the same time. It could be seen that he hated Nie Wuxiang to the bone. Under the black lines, the flower petals on Nie Wuxiang's body became fainter and fainter. Gradually, her silhouette was revealed. The moment the petals dissipated and the black thread was about to penetrate her body, Nie Wuxiang suddenly disappeared. At the same time, an earth-shattering punch smashed onto Master Song Feng's body from the sky. "Gotcha!" The sound of bones being hit rang out, and Master Song Feng fell down. Nie Wuxiang's silhouette appeared in the void, and she also followed after him. The 2 of them landed on Langtu Mountain one after the other. The devil cloud on Master Song Feng's body swayed, and a lot of his devil aura dissipated. "B***, I should thank you for this, Master," Nie Wuxiang said. "The phantom shape-shifting talisman was something you snatched from a nascent soul cultivator back then." Master Song Feng naturally knew. The Qianquan bag that was stolen from him back then contained all important spiritual treasures. As a result, not only did he have no treasures to use today, but he was also seriously injured by his own treasures. This little B***. Looking at Nie Wuxiang's ice-cold face, Master Song Feng gritted his teeth so hard that they made cracking sounds. Just as she guessed, he was forced to give up his physical body in Sandstorm City, so he had no choice but to take over her body. Back then, he comprehended the wrong cultivation technique, so he didn't take over her body. One reason was that his primordial spirit had already been eroded by the dead aura, so taking over her body wouldn't solve the problem. The other reason was that he left himself some hope. He could only take over someone's body once in his lifetime. One day, he could expel all the dead aura and take over someone's body again. By then, he would have a brand new body and hope to advance to the deification realm. But what about now? If he hadn't discovered this B*Tish had returned to the celestial pole, how could he have gone to Sandstorm City? How could he have been besieged by those old guys? How could he have given up his physical body? How could he have been forced to take over someone's body? How could he have lost all hope of advancing to the deification realm? It was all because of this B*Tish. I really regret that I didn't kill you back then. Master Song Feng said word by word. Nie Wuxiang laughed. Yeah, if you had killed me back then, how could there have been so many troubles? Unfortunately, it's useless even if you regret it. A devil cloud rose from her hand. Compared to Master Song Feng, Nie Wuxiang's devil cloud wasn't as strong, but it was also a lot cleaner. It was just pure primordial devil aura. This made Master Song Feng even more resentful. All of this originally belonged to him. After he lost control of his shout, his devil aura surged up violently like ocean waves. Once Nie Wuxiang saw this scene, she immediately knew that Master Song Feng had been stimulated to the point of madness by her. He originally didn't cultivate his mental state, and the wrong primordial devil great technique distorted his mind, cutting off his hope of advancing to the deification realm. Coupled with Nie Wuxiang's repeated blows, he finally fell into a demonic barrier. I'll kill you. A gloomy voice carrying a murderous aura rolled up the devil aura and yellow sand, attacking Nie Wuxiang all at once. Nie Wuxiang wasn't stingy at all. Spirit treasures appeared in her hands one after another to resist Master Song Feng's attack. The devil aura fluttered her black clothes, and the yellow sand covered the sky and covered the earth, but she didn't dare to relax in the slightest. Empress Origin was Empress Origin after all. Although she deliberately provoked and looked down on her master with words, she knew in her heart that even if her master was seriously injured and his body wasn't compatible with hers due to the failure of possession, she still couldn't resist him head-on. This was the #1 cultivator in the celestial pole. She knew this better than anyone else. Therefore, she could only drag it out. As long as she dragged it out, the final winner would be her. In the primordial devil aura cloud, yellow sand rustled and rocks rolled down. Langtu Mountain almost collapsed. Nie Wuxiang clenched her teeth and held on. Magic treasures and spirit talismans were thrown out one by one to meet Master Song Feng's devil cloud, but they exploded one after another. Every time, she had an illusion that she couldn't hold on any longer, but when she thought of the humiliation she suffered for more than 100 years, she held on. The injuries on her body became more and more serious. She held the devil talisman she'd prepared a long time ago and indirectly replenished her devil aura. What did this count for? She was no longer the Nie Wuxiang who was bullied and humiliated but couldn't resist. She had friends, she could straighten her back, she could walk under the sun, and she wanted to have her own life. She wanted to personally erase this person who left a shadow in her heart and didn't even dare to breathe. She crushed the devil talisman countless times to replenish her devil aura and threw out countless spiritual treasures to resist the attacks. Finally, the spiritual aura pressure on her body slowly weakened. When the attacks stopped, Nie Wuxiang's spirit was shaken. She put her hands together, and a huge devil crystal appeared in her hands, flashing with a strange aura of death. With a light flick, the devil crystal flew out. Although it was moving at a slow speed, it quickly appeared next to Master Song Feng. Master Song Feng sneered. You want to fight back like this? In your dreams? The corners of Nie Wuxiang's mouth rose, revealing a sneer. Primordial devil gathered on her fist, and she silently punched out. Master Song Feng waved his hand, and the devil cloud wrapped around him, casually blocking it. Unexpectedly, in the next moment, Nie Wuxiang's fist penetrated the devil cloud and hit his body. Master Song Feng's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible, how could this be? Watching him fall heavily, Nie Wuxiang said faintly, Master, there are 3,000 Daoists, but not all of them are the same. The devil cloud dispersed, revealing a skeleton-like body with a terrifying face and 2 eyes staring at her. He still didn't believe her. How could this be? Why did I lose? Nie Wuxiang stared at him. Do you really want to know? Master Song Feng didn't close his eyes. Nie Wuxiang said, when I set foot on Lang Tu Mountain, I started to arrange the devil crystal. Master, you probably don't know, but this devil crystal doesn't only have death aura. Everyone in Yunzhong is afraid of it because it has a strange effect. It absorbs people's spiritual essence. Seeing Master Song Feng lying on the ground desperately trying to stand up, Nie Wuxiang said with pity, Master, your body is broken, your primordial spirit is also entangled by death aura, and your own spiritual essence is insufficient. If it weren't for your profound cultivation level, the spiritual essence of your soul wouldn't have been able to support you to survive. I kept provoking you for 2 reasons. One was to make you underestimate the enemy, and the other was to stall for time so the devil crystal could absorb your spiritual essence. It turns out, a strange expression appeared on Master Song Feng's badly mutilated face. He seemed to be smiling. You are really her daughter. This was the second time he said this, but his tone was different. The first time, it was resentment, but this time, it was yearning. He said faintly, that's fine. It's better to die in the hands of your daughter than to die silently, neither human nor ghost. In your next life, what's the use of your current appearance? Nie Wuxiang looked at him, feeling for the first time that he was so weak. Why didn't you tell my mother when she was alive? Master Song Feng let out a strange laugh and said, she betrayed me. That's right, how could there be a woman who would love me with my current appearance? Was my mother that kind of person? Nie Wuxiang interrupted him and said coldly, was the woman you loved deeply, the only woman in your life, that kind of person? Although I don't remember what happened before I was 3 years old, I don't believe it. Master Song Feng's eyes widened. His eyeballs, which almost popped out of his eye sockets, looked more and more disgusting and terrifying. Master, Nie Wuxiang said softly, you've always kept my mother's stone room in the cave. You didn't allow anyone to step in, didn't let anyone mention her, and even punished senior martial brother when he scolded her. Master, you've always loved my mother, haven't you? He had no lips and his teeth were exposed. It could be clearly seen that he was trembling. Would the woman you loved so deeply leave you for such a reason? She's been with you for several thousand years. Would she leave you just like that? Nie Wuxiang said coldly, instead of blaming her, you'd better blame yourself. Even in your next life, she wouldn't want to meet you like this again. Master Song Feng absent-mindedly looked at the yellow sand all over the sky. More than 1,000 years flashed past his eyes. Stepping on the path of immortality, becoming an ordinary disciple, having his sect destroyed, demonic mountain, fated chances, stone tablets, comprehending the wrong cultivation technique, body festering. Yes, when he met Ting, he was already in that state. She wouldn't leave him because of this. It was he who doubted her and pushed her away step by step. As it turned out, his life was a complete failure. He couldn't enter the deification realm, and he destroyed her with his own hands. Such a failed life. Then let it end like this. Just as she was about to check Nie Wuxiang's pulse to examine the condition of her meridians, she suddenly remembered that Nie Wuxiang was a devil cultivator. She didn't know much about devil cultivators, so she had no way to use her spiritual aura to examine Nie Wuxiang's meridians. After being stunned for a while, she asked, Master, what should we do about this? Mo Tianga's request for help made Lord Daoist Jinghe extremely proud. Master still needs to step in at a critical moment. Just you wait. As he spoke, his eyes flickered. After sweeping a glance at Nie Wuxiang's body, he retracted his technique and returned to his normal state. She's fine. Although her injuries are a bit heavy, they didn't damage her nascent soul. She'll probably recover after resting for 30 to 50 years. 30 to 50 years? That's not counting external objects. If she has healing medicinal pills like devil cores, she'll probably recover in 10 to 20 years. Mo Tiange nodded. Then let's take her back. Lord Daoist Jinghe didn't answer immediately. He stared at her a few times before he finally said, Girl, you really treat her differently. She's a devil cultivator and also Old Man Song Feng's disciple. You actually want to take her back to the sect to recuperate? Emotienga said, What else? Do you want to see her die here? Master, you don't think it's good? Lord Daoist Jinghe thought for a while. It's fine. That old man Xianyang won't dare to have any objections. After a few words, the master and disciple decided to take Nie Wuxiang back to Xianxia school. When they arrived at Xianxia school, Lord Daoist Jinghe didn't manage anything and went to Kuanzhong City. Mo Tiange opened a stone room and stuffed Nie Wuxiang inside. She couldn't help devil cultivators recuperate. How is it? Qin, she asked after she settled Nie Wuxiang and returned to the cultivation room. Mo Tiange said, She killed Master Song Feng. What? Qin, she thought he misheard. Mo Tiange repeated herself. She killed Master Song Feng, so she's seriously injured. Qin, she slowly came to his senses, but he still felt it was unbelievable. She really killed Master Song Feng? I sensed her cultivation just now. She's just in the middle stage. How did she kill him? I don't know about this. Let's ask her when she wakes up. Mo Tiange thought for a while. After all, she followed Master Song Feng for so many years. Maybe she knows his unknown weakness? Qin, she nodded and pointed at the table. Let's not talk about her for now. Take a look at this. Mo Tiange saw several things on the table. One was spirit-tempering water, the second was spirit-absorbing powder from the fallen god Abyss, and the third was the crystal they got from the storeroom of a great ancient sect next to the White Tiger Sacrificial Temple. Spirit-tempering water aside, they still hadn't figured out how to use the spirit-absorbing powder, let alone the crystal. They asked many people, but no one knew what it was. What? Qin, she didn't say anything. He picked up the spirit-tempering water and dripped it on the crystal. There was already a small hole on the crystal. When the spirit-tempering water dripped on it, the hole slowly melted. When the cup of spirit-tempering water was finished, a hole was formed. It turns out it's just a shell. Mo Tiange looked at the top of the crystal, which had been melted by the spirit-tempering water. There was something like mist and water inside. It didn't have any spiritual aura, but it had an extremely mysterious aura. What's this? Qin, she glanced at the piles of books and jade slips on the side. We were misled. We didn't even know what it was, so how could we find out what it was? After realizing this, I flipped through the ancient books and found it might be something else. What is it? Primal chaos aura, Qin, she said, the beginning of heaven and earth. Mo Tiange didn't speak for a long time. She was dumbfounded. After a while, she found her voice. According to what you said, even in the immortal world, primal chaos aura is a top-grade treasure. How could it fall into the human world? Qin, she shook his head. It's meaningless to investigate this. Take another look. As he spoke, he took several spirit stones and threw them into the crystal. Then, the gas melted at a speed visible to the naked eye and disappeared without a trace. Just like this, almost everything can be melted. Really? Mo Tiange's expression became serious. She took out several unimportant materials from her Qiankuan ring and threw them into the crystal. Sure enough, all of them disappeared without a trace. After watching for a while, she suddenly said, Spirit-sucking powder can absorb any spell, and this primal chaos aura can melt anything. What would happen if I put them together? Qin, she smiled. That's exactly what I was thinking, but you came back before I could try it. Then let's try it quickly. Qin, she nodded. Seeing that the crystal enveloping the primal chaos aura had somewhat healed, he took the spirit-tempering water and melted it again. Turns out this thing can grow automatically. Mo Tiange seemed to have understood something. No wonder it can be used to contain primal chaos aura. After melting the outer crystal, Qin, she carefully wrapped some primal chaos aura with his spiritual aura, making it float in the air. Then he sprinkled some spirit-sucking powder on it. The sizzling sound was endless, as if it was boiling and burning. The spirit-sucking powder and the primal chaos aura entangled and devoured each other as if they were fighting fiercely. The two of them stared at it without blinking. Before long, the sound gradually weakened. From the bottom to the top, the primal chaos aura became transparent like ice crystals. In the end, it became a crystal. After a long silence, Xianxia knocked the outer shell containing the primal chaos aura. So this thing is made of spirit-sucking powder? Xianxia also touched it. He felt there was no difference no matter how he looked at it. When he tried to pour his spiritual aura into it, he suddenly thought of something. What's wrong? Xianxia noticed his strange expression and hurriedly asked. Xianxia didn't answer immediately. After spending some effort to take back his spiritual aura, he said, spirit-sucking powder can absorb spiritual aura, and primal chaos aura can dissolve everything. The combination of these two is simply a sharp defensive weapon. Xianxia knocked the crystal and asked, You mean it can be made into a defensive magic weapon? Xianxia nodded. Yes. We originally thought spirit-sucking powder would be the best to make a defensive magic weapon. Now, with the addition of primal chaos aura, the effect is more than doubled. Xianxia thought for a while and said, I think it's good to make an offensive magic weapon. Xianxia touched an ordinary magic weapon and threw it into the primal chaos aura. Soon, the magic weapon disappeared without a trace. Xianxia looked at it for a while and finally understood. You mean, which magic weapon is so domineering? It's a pity not to attack. Xianxia stared at her for a long time and said, Xianxia, you seem different from before. Different? Xianxia raised her eyebrows in surprise. What's different? It seems a bit sharper, he said. He smiled as he recalled. In the past, you were mostly on the defensive, cautious, and advanced step by step. But now, you also have an indomitable momentum. Xianxia thought about it carefully. She seemed to be right, so she said with a smile, Maybe I was influenced by you guys? Isn't this better? Xianxia answered with a smile. He looked at the crystal in his hand and thought for a while, then said, I really can't figure out how to refine this thing. How about I go to Qinzhong City? I can ask my senior martial brothers and sisters for advice and work together. In addition, I can also use the trade fair to communicate with other people. Maybe I can find other clues. Xianxia thought about it and agreed. With the transporting formation, it's enough for me and senior martial brother Lingxi to guard the sect. It shouldn't be a problem for you to go there for a month. Okay. Xianxia put away the crystal he condensed, took a tube of spirit-tempering water and a small amount of spirit-absorbing powder, and put them in his universe ring. I'll go now. So fast. Xianxia was surprised. Go early and come back early. Xianxia paused, then reminded her in a low voice. You have to pay more attention to Nie Wuxiang now. Her identity is sensitive, and it won't be good if it gets out. In addition, although your friendship with her isn't bad, she's a devil cultivator and also Master Song Feng's disciple. It's said that Master Song Feng's crazy and vengeful personality is also influenced by her cultivation technique. I'm really a bit worried. I know, Xianxia said rationally. I've long prepared for it. I arranged a lot of defensive formations in the stone room where she recuperated. Don't worry. Xianxia nodded and said no more. He put away the things, left the cave, and went to Qinzhong City. Chapter 660. 5 days later, Nie Wuxiang finally woke up. As soon as she woke up, she saw Xianxia sitting next to her. Xianxia. Nie Wuxiang was relieved to see her. I'm finally alive. Xianxia saw that her face was still pale, so she asked with concern, Are you okay? How could you be so rash as to go to Langtu Mountain alone? No matter how seriously injured Master Songfeng is, he's still a late-stage nascent soul cultivator. Even my master might not be able to kill him. You're alone. Nie Wuxiang smiled and said, I'm afraid I don't have time. He doesn't have much lifespan left and his injuries are so serious. What if he dies before I act? Besides, I'm fine, aren't I? Xianxia snorted. You call this fine? Even with miraculous pills, it'll take at least 10 or 20 years for your injuries to heal. It's only 10 or 20 years. Nie Wuxiang was very calm. I'm not even 300 years old yet, so my lifespan is very long. What's the big deal if I only spend a few dozen years? You're really? Mo Tiange was speechless. All right. Seeing her unhappy expression, Nie Wuxiang smiled flatteringly and clasped her hands together. I'm still alive, so don't argue with me about this. By the way, don't you want to know how I defeated my master? She successfully aroused Mo Tiange's curiosity. Why? Nie Wuxiang said slowly, my master's cultivation level is profound and he's powerful. It's definitely impossible to defeat him head-on. However, he has a weakness. He once practiced the wrong cultivation technique. I remember you once told me that there was a person who looked very similar to my master after he cultivated. In fact, my master didn't cultivate primordial devil aura, but instead, he cultivated death aura. However, he was much smarter, so he discovered something was wrong and quickly comprehended the real cultivation technique. But his body was already damaged, and the death aura invaded his primordial spirit. So, with his current state, no matter how high his cultivation level was, he couldn't advance to the deification realm? The nascent soul was formed by the fusion of the golden core and part of the primordial spirit's power. However, the soul formation stage required the nascent soul to go through thousands of tempering and merge with the primordial spirit and the body. No matter which part of the nascent soul, primordial spirit and body, nothing could go wrong. For the corporeal body, even if it was damaged, it could be regenerated with the power of the nascent soul. However, if it was contaminated by impurities, it had to be removed. It was the same for the nascent soul. If it was contaminated by the death qi, it could never merge with the corporeal body and the nascent soul to advance to the deity transformation stage. Exactly. Nie Wuxiang nodded. You've also noticed, right? Could he still be considered a human? If it wasn't for his profound cultivation, he would have long been tortured into a corpse by the death qi. Mo Tiange recalled her behavior in Carefree Valley and suddenly understood. Back then, you used devil crystals to absorb dead aura just to deal with your master? Nie Wuxiang nodded then sighed. When I saw the magic crystal back then, I faintly felt that it would be a breakthrough. My master is too powerful. Ordinary methods can't deal with him at all. Only the devil crystals can absorb one's essence energy and have a unique effect. They're a completely different type of method, making it impossible for him to defend against them. Is it the death qi or the essence qi? Why don't I understand? Mo Tiange was a bit confused. Since he's plagued by the death qi is his greatest enemy, isn't it? Nie Wuxiang shook her head. The death qi is indeed his greatest enemy, but it's hard to see its effect in the short term. Besides, with his cultivation level, he can successfully suppress the death qi, so there's no way to take his life. Then I used the devil crystals to absorb the death qi for two reasons. One was to use the death qi to destroy the Immortal's cave's formation, and the other was to numb him. My master has seen a lot of death qi, so he didn't take it seriously and neglected the real effect of the devil crystals. His body was already weak, and his primordial spirit was trapped. He should have been a dead man long ago. This shows that his soul power is very weak, and he's only relying on his powerful cultivation level to support himself. I used the devil crystals to absorb his essence energy and disperse his soul power. That way, I could have won without a fight. Mo Tiange thought about what she said over and over again. Eventually, she sighed and said, "You've really racked your brains to make such a good move." Nie Wuxiang smiled bitterly. If it wasn't because I couldn't defeat him, why would I have to do this? I can only blame myself for being too weak. Blame yourself for having too little time. Mo Tiange shook her head and said, with your qualifications, advancing to the late stage of the nascent soul realm is only a matter of time, and it's not impossible for you to advance to the deification realm. It's just that you're not sure he can wait until that moment. Yes. Nie Wuxiang looked a bit absent-minded. Master has lived for too long. The two of them looked at each other in silence. They only felt that time was passing. No matter how powerful a cultivator was, there would always be a moment when he or she would disappear, and the path to immortality was still far in the future. After a long time, Mo Tiange said, "What's your next plan?" Nie Wuxiang thought for a while, then shook her head. "Nothing." Mo Tiange heaved a sigh. How about, you stay here with me? Nie Wuxiang was stunned and hastily waved her hand. I'm a devil cultivator, and Xianxia school is a Dao school. I'm not asking you to join Xianxia school, Tiange said with a smile. In any case, I'm a nascent soul lord Daoist now. It shouldn't be a problem for me to ask a friend to stay here for a long time, right? Nie Wuxiang thought about it carefully. There were only a few places she could go. Yunzhong was in chaos. The current situation was confusing, and there were killings everywhere. Xiaoyang, this place was even more chaotic. Without strength, people could only be trampled on. In the celestial pole, she was Master Songfang's disciple, so this matter wasn't difficult to investigate. Originally, Langtu Mountain was secretive enough, but now it was exposed. She was seriously injured and couldn't fight with others, so it was best for her to find a safe place to slowly recuperate. Thinking about it this way, Xianxia School was really the best choice. First of all, Xianxia School was very powerful now. Whether it was in the Celestial Pole or Yunzhong, no one would come to Xianxia School's encampment to cause trouble. Second, Tiange was her most trusted friend. She saved her from danger many times, so there was no one more trustworthy than her in this world. Nie Wuxiang thought for a while. After confirming it, she agreed. Okay, thank you. Tiange waved her hand. There's no need to thank me between us. She took out a jade talisman. You can recuperate here. If you need anything, use this talisman to inform the supervising disciples here. Nie Wuxiang took the jade talisman. Then I won't be polite. The two of them talked about their experiences in the past few years, as well as the problem of cultivating and recuperating before Tiange left the stone room to let Nie Wuxiang rest. Qin Shi's trip took 2 months before he returned. As soon as he returned to his cave, Tiange asked, "What took you so long? Do you have any clues?" Qin Shi said, "Nowadays, wars are frequent. I didn't go at the right time, and there aren't many cultivators in Kuanzhong City. Senior Marshal Brother Zhenyang said there would be a large-scale trade fair in a month or so he told me to wait. I thought Kuanzhong City was a trade city, so there might be some people with special abilities who knew something, so I agreed. In these 2 months, I collected some information. After Senior Marshal brothers and sisters came back, they also gave us a lot of ideas." As he said that, he took out a small bag and poured out many jade slips. After a rough look, there were about 30 to 50 of them. Tiange was dumbfounded. "This is..." Qin Shi smiled helplessly. "Not all of them are real clues. I wrote down all the similar ones." He picked out one of the jade slips and said, "This is what Master and the others concluded after discussing for us to refer to." Tiange looked at the jade slips one by one. After a long time, she finally finished reading them. She frowned slightly and said, "It takes time to experiment with these things. They can't be decided in a short time. And so we're busy." The two of them moved the things into the virtual sky world. Qin Shi asked, "Are you all right in these 2 months? How's Nie Wuxiang?" "She's recuperating, so I left her here." Tiange roughly described their conversation and said, "I think she's clear-headed, so she should be fine. I also asked her, and she said the reason why Master Song Feng became like that was because he practiced that wrong cultivation technique. Since Great Primordial Devil technique was put together with the 5 Spirits Sacrifice Temple, it must be a cultivation technique that far surpasses the present world, so it's impossible for it to have this kind of shortcoming. As long as you comprehend it correctly, there won't be any problems." "That's good." He was just taking precautions. Since he left her here, he had to be on guard. "Right? Xingji is also in Kuanzhong City. He told me something." "Oh." Tiange was very interested in Xingji's current situation. "What did Venerable Swordsman Stillwater say to you?" Qin Shi saw that she really wanted to laugh, so he said helplessly, "Don't laugh at him. He's already very serious now." "Very serious, Xingji." Tiange nodded seriously, then burst out laughing again. "It's so hard to imagine." When she was done laughing, Qin Shi said, "Xingji told me he found clues about the Qilin." Tiange was surprised. "So fast? What kind of clues? Where did he get them?" She sat down at the table, fiddled with the jade slip, and asked, "Do you still remember the Qilin the Spirit Beast Sect's founder's mount?" "Of course I remember. Spirit Beast Sect uses the Qilin as their sect's emblem. All the cultivators in the Celestial Pole knew about this." Jing Xingji said he accidentally found records about the Spirit Beast Sect's founder's mount in the sect's library. On a whim, he looked for Hua Lingyun from Spirit Beast Sect and asked for some information. Mo Tiange said with surprise, "How could they easily tell others about the founder's mount?" Was Jing Xingji deceived? She smiled faintly. "I don't think so. He paid a price that Hua Lingyun couldn't refuse." "What was it?" "The white tiger's breath in his hand," she said. "He showed Hua Lingyun the white tiger sword and gave him some of the white tiger's breath." Mo Tiange nodded thoughtfully. "For Spirit Beast Sect, this is really an irresistible temptation." "Who said it wasn't?" Hua Lingyun told him the origin of the Qilin mount in detail on the spot, then went back to closed-door meditation. Mo Tiange laughed, then grabbed him and asked, "Does this Qilin have anything to do with the Qilin we're looking for?" Jing Xingji speculated that it should. "Should?" She shook his head gently. "There's still too little information. Moreover, the world changed not long ago, so many descriptions can't be accurate anymore. We need more time to confirm." Mo Tiange breathed a sigh of relief. "There's no hurry. Wuxiang still needs a long time to heal. Quickly tell me, where did the Spirit Beast Sect's Qilin come from?" She took a sip of tea, then said neither too fast nor too slow, "In Yunzhong." This location gave Mo Tiange a headache. "Do we have to go to Yunzhong?" Chapter 661. To put it bluntly, Yunzhong was full of enemies. During the Black Tortoise incident last time, all the cultivators in Yunzhong stood against them. It was hard to find someone who didn't have a grudge against them. "It's in the original Yunzhong," she said calmly. "After the world changed, Spirit Beast Sect sent people to investigate. It's not in the place described in the ancient records, so Jing Xingji suspects that the world changed the location of Qilin." After a pause, he smiled and said, "There's no hurry. Even if we have a clue, it'll take a long time to investigate. Besides, the clue is so simple." Jing Xingji also said that according to the ancient records of Spirit Beast Sect, this place has a strong aura of divine beasts, but the founder of Spirit Beast Sect didn't see the sacrificial temple, so he can't be sure it's the Qilin sacrificial temple we're looking for. Mo Tiange nodded. "That's right. If the Qilin sacrificial temple was so easy to find, it wouldn't have been undiscovered for so many years." Did Jing Xingji say how to investigate next? "Do you need our help?" She shook his head. "He said he'll take care of this." "Take care of it?" Mo Tiange smiled. "Poor child, you've never experienced the power of a nascent soul venerable swordsman, right?" "Exactly." She also smiled. "This is good. We have time to refine magic weapons." Mo Tiange agreed. "It's best if we succeed before we find the Qilin's sacrificial temple." After that, the two of them devoted themselves to refining magic weapons. First, they sorted out the clues they collected one by one, discarding the useless ones and keeping the useful ones. Then they analyzed and experimented with the suggestions of the nascent soul lord Daoists. This was easy to say but difficult to do. The primal chaos aura and spirit-absorbing powder were too mysterious and difficult to make progress. In the end, the two of them had to give up and concentrate on understanding the material of the primal chaos crystal. This was the simplest and stupidest method. With the development of tool refining, there were many ways to identify materials. Tool refiners usually use these methods to identify materials before starting to refine tools. Not only did it require enough perception, but it also required a lot of time. Usually, an ordinary material would take a few months to understand, and the rarer ones might even take a few years. The primal chaos crystal obviously belonged to the latter. The two of them had no choice. For this kind of supreme material, refining methods were completely useless. Time flowed by quickly like water. Nie Wuxiang was recuperating, Jing Xingji was investigating the Qilin sacrificial temple, and Mo Tiange and Qin Shi were refining magic weapons. Everyone was concentrating on doing their own things. 10 years later, the Immortal Alliance finally defeated the demon cultivators and began to recuperate. Xinjiang, Miaoyi, and Xianyin returned to their sects, leaving Jinghe and Huayan to guard Kuanzhong City. Next, everyone either cultivated or traveled. The Celestial Pole faction was peaceful. Mo Tiange couldn't help but wonder whether her deduction of the world in chaos was wrong or not. Of course, in the depths of her heart, she hoped that she was wrong. The end of the human world and the extinction of humanity was something that no one liked. In the past few years, Xianxia School's development speed had shocked the entire Celestial Pole. With enough medicinal pills, the number of core formation disciples soared. Every few dozen years, someone would form their gold core. Right now, the number of core formation cultivators at Xianxia School was number 1 in the Celestial Pole, and it was difficult to surpass them. Under them were Yi Zhenji, Shui Linbua, and Sang Yushu, 3 core formation disciples. Although Yi Zhenji's spiritual root was ordinary, his comprehension wasn't bad, and he had been taught by them since he was a child. As long as he broke through his mental state, with the help of spiritual herbs, it wouldn't be difficult for him to form his gold core. Shui Linbua's spiritual root could be considered poor. Fortunately, she had a firm heart, so she could reach the foundation-building realm. Logically speaking, the possibility of her forming her gold core was almost zero. For the sake of Shui Linbua's conscientiousness in taking care of the cave for so many years, Mo Tiange used medicinal pills to help her advance to the core formation realm, which could be regarded as helping Shui Linbua and Yi Zhenji. However, her cultivation path was almost over. As for Sang Yushu, except for her poor spiritual root, she had no shortcomings in other aspects. With Qianxi's guidance, after so many years of accumulation, forming her gold core could be said to be a matter of course. Qianxi even thought he had a chance to enter the nascent soul realm. As for the others, Yi Wen and Shi Su, they weren't Mo Tiange's real disciples. Their strengths weren't cultivation, they just went with the flow. Xie Jingyi and Qi Yunshu had good conditions in all aspects, but they were still young. If they wanted to form their gold core, it would take at least several decades of tempering. In recent years, the most dazzling star in Xianxia School was Mo Xiaoyang, the disciple accepted by Lord Daoist Lingxi. Because Mo Tiange saved his life, he changed his surname to Mo. After being accepted as Lord Daoist Lingxi's disciple for more than 30 years, he formed his gold core at the age of 80. He was only a little later than Qianxi and a little earlier than Mo Tiange. For a time, Mo Xiaoyang seemed to have become a genius of the new generation in Xianxia School. He was often mentioned and even compared to Mo Tiange and Qianxi. Mo Tiange felt this wasn't a good sign. It wasn't good to blindly pursue speed in cultivation. Besides, such comments were tantamount to praising someone to death. She specifically mentioned this to Qianxi. Qianxi deeply agreed and found an opportunity to hint a few words to Lord Daoist Lingxi. How could Lord Daoist Lingxi not know? He said he was prepared, so the two of them didn't say anything more. In any case, Mo Xiaoyang was Lord Daoist Lingxi's disciple, so it wasn't good for them to meddle too much. Besides, they also had their own disciples. It was just that Mo Xiaoyang was brought into Xianxia School by them, so he had karma with them, so they were more concerned about him. After more than 30 years, Nie Wushang's injuries were finally completely healed, and even the hidden dangers were removed. They also had a preliminary understanding of the materials of chaos crystals and started to refine magic weapons. At this time, Jing Xingji suddenly came to visit them. After returning from Yunzhong, Jing Xingji returned to Gujin sect. In the past few decades, they only met once when Qianxi went to Kuanzhong City. At other times, they communicated through summoning talismans. Mo Tiange was very uncomfortable to suddenly see Jing Xingji. Jing Xingji was wearing the cyan sword robe of Gujin sect's nascent soul venerable swordsman. The patterns on it were complicated and showed his nobility. His hair was tied neatly in a crown. As soon as he entered Mount Taikong, he pretended to greet them. "Fellow Daoists, long time no see. How have you been?" Mo Tiange simply couldn't look at Jing Xingji like this. In the end, Qianxi was calm. He casually said, Fellow Daoist, you're still as elegant as ever. He then welcomed Jing Xingji into his cave. Nie Wuxiang was stunned when she saw him. She then said rudely, "Why are you so stubborn?" Jing Xingji's face instantly darkened. Mo Tiange held back her laughter and tried to smooth things over. Alright. We haven't seen each other for so many years. Let's be more friendly. You're the first one who wants to laugh. Jing Xingji didn't appreciate it at all and glared at her fiercely. Mo Tiange spread her hands to express her innocence, but the corners of her mouth kept rising. Jing Xingji sighed again. I have no choice. Although Martial Uncle Yuaning didn't say it, he doesn't like frivolous people. Alas, returning to the sect really isn't free. You finally know you're frivolous? Nie Wuxiang made sarcastic remarks on the side. Seeing that Jing Xingji's face was about to completely darken, Mo Tiange hurriedly said, "That's enough. Wuxiang, don't provoke him. Fellow Daoist Jing, you didn't come to bicker, did you?" Of course not. Jing Xingji said sternly, I came because I got some definite news about the Qilin. It had been more than 30 years since they first found clues about the Qilin. During these 30 years, Jing Xingji would send some news from time to time. In the beginning, he also sent people to Yunzhong to search. However, they weren't looking for the sacrificial temple, they were looking for the traces of the Spirit Beast sect's founder. According to the ancient records of the Spirit Beast sect, the founder once traveled the world. When he passed by a place, he obtained a spiritual beast similar to the Qilin. According to Hua Lingyun, this wasn't a real Qilin, but a descendant of a divine beast with the Qilin's bloodline. Gujian sect disciples went deep into Yunzhong and inquired about the legends of various places. Then, they combined it with the records of the Spirit Beast sect to find useful information and confirm that there used to be a strong Qilin's aura in a certain place in Yunzhong. That Qilin mount was born there. However, this Qilin's aura gradually disappeared over the years. By the time the world changed, it had completely disappeared. The clues were cut off. Helpless, Jing Xingji tried to bribe Hua Lingyun again. This time, he only got some fragmented information. No matter how he investigated, he couldn't find anything. Venerable swordsman Yuaning told him that the Qilin was the symbol of the Spirit Beast sect. If they wanted to find it, they would have found it long ago. It was only because they couldn't find it that Hua Lingyun told him this information so bluntly. When Jing Xingji heard this, he almost carried his sword and went to the Spirit Beast sect to cause trouble. It took him a lot of effort to restrain himself. What happened next? What did you find? This time, I didn't find it. I deduced it. Jing Xingji had a complacent look on his face. With a wave of his sleeve, virtual images of maps of various continents appeared in front of the four people. Look, these are the current locations of the continents. Let's mark the four spirits' sacrificial temple on them. He flicked his finger. First, 2 gold and black dots appeared in the westernmost Fengsha city and the northern part of Yunzhong. These are the locations of the sacrificial temples that we can confirm at the moment, White Tiger and Black Tortoise. He flicked his finger again. 2 green and red dots lit up in the easternmost Fengsha city and the southern part of Yunzhong. The Azure Dragon is in the Eastern Sea, and the Vermilion Bird is in the Sea of Returning Ruins, right? Everyone nodded. They didn't understand what he meant. Jing Xingji smiled mysteriously. But have you thought about it? The Eastern Sea and the Sea of Returning Ruins might not have moved with the continents. Everyone was stunned. Mo Tiange stared at the virtual map and looked at the locations of the Eastern Sea and the Sea of Returning Ruins. She suddenly stood up in astonishment. So that's how it is. Jing Xingji held his teacup and nodded complacently. That's how it is. Mo Tiange swiped her finger. The red dot in the southern part of Yunzhong moved down and stopped at the current location of Yuanzhou. The green dot in the easternmost part of the celestial pole went all the way east. The 4 dots stopped. Although they weren't symmetrical, they were clearly divided into north, south, east, and west. See? Jing Xingji said, north, south, east, and west coincide with the Azure Dragon in the east, the Vermilion Bird in the south, the White Tiger in the west, and the Black Tortoise in the north. Qin Shi's gaze moved and stopped in the middle. Since they all coincide, how could the qilin be an exception? It's naturally in the middle. The yellow dot moved slowly and finally stopped in the middle, Xiaoyang. After realizing this, I took the map from before the world changed and compared it with it. Take a look again. Jing Xingji turned his palm, and a map with a slightly different color slowly overlapped with the virtual map. The yellow dot representing the qilin appeared in the western part of the clouds. See? Jing Xingji smiled. This is the location where the founder of Spirit Beast sect obtained the qilin. So that's how it is. Tiange sat back down and calmed herself down. So, the qilin is in the current Xiaoyang. Yes, but also no. Jing Xingji withdrew the virtual map and drank slowly for a while. After enjoying the feeling of being a master enough, he said, "Look, the white tiger and the black tortoise on the continent have all moved with the continent. The azure dragon and the vermilion bird haven't moved because they're actually on the sea. What about the qilin? Look at the map. It's obviously always been on the continent." Nie Wuxiang thought for a while then said, "The founder of Spirit Beast sect didn't really see the qilin. What he saw was only the qilin's breath. Maybe the qilin isn't on the continent at all?" Jing Xingji just wanted to pretend to be a master, but Nie Wuxiang ruined it. He said very reluctantly, "Yes, I sent people to Xiaoyang." Sure enough, they didn't find any trace of the qilin on the continent until they reached the bottom of the sea. Chapter 662. Now that they'd found the qilin's sacrificial temple, it was time to leave. Both Tiange and Qin she thought they'd figured out how to refine the chaos crystal, so they should refine the magic weapon first. Nie Wuxiang said she wanted to go to Langtu Mountain to find what Master Song Feng left behind. Jing Xingji didn't have much to do, so he took over the task of contacting Yang Qingji and Ling Yunhe. The four of them went their separate ways and agreed to go to Xiaoyang together after the matter was finished. The refining process of the chaos crystal wasn't smooth. Perhaps because the primal chaos aura was too mysterious, the chaos crystal shattered from time to time during the refining process, causing a huge consumption of spirit-absorbing powder. The magic weapon had just taken shape when it was used up. After a discussion, the two of them decided to go to Fallen God Abyss again to collect spirit-absorbing powder. They'd been there once, so they were familiar with the route this time. Fallen God Abyss was still the same. There were yellow rocks everywhere, and not even a blade of grass grew. Gales swept by with great power. They came down from Fallen God Abyss and were still sucked into the vortex, but this time, they were prepared, so they weren't affected much. Along the canyon, they slowly entered the cave where they found the spirit-absorbing powder and used spirit-quenching water to extract the powder from the bluish-gray rocks. The larger pieces were the size of a finger and looked like milky white jade, while the smaller pieces were like powder. The two of them spent several days and almost melted the entire mountain wall. Tiange suddenly stopped. "Come and see." Upon hearing this, Qin she turned around to look. There was a trace of metal in the depths of the mountain wall, but he couldn't tell what kind of metal it was. "What's this?" Qin she touched it. "Let's see." Tiange entered the virtual sky world, took out a large bucket of spirit-quenching water, and poured it on the stone wall without hesitation. Under the effect of the spirit-quenching water, all the spirit-absorbing powder was collected into their bags. Finally, a round object fell down. This object was about 3 feet in diameter and was dark in color. One side was a round frame, the other side was slightly bulging like a turtle shell, and the bottom was a twig-like base. Qin she turned it over, brushed off the dust on it, and saw that the bulging side was engraved with extremely complicated patterns. Tiange stared at them for a while. She felt these patterns were extremely profound and seemed to contain endless changes. Yin and yang, the 5 elements, life and death, and even the myriad of the mortal world, innumerable karma. "Tiange!" A heavy shout rang in her ears, causing her to wake up with a start. "What's going on?" Qin she asked. Tiange touched her chest with lingering fear and said, "This thing is terrible. It definitely doesn't belong to our world." "Oh." Qin she took a careful look. Although he also felt it was mysterious, his feelings weren't as deep as hers. Mo Tiange pointed at the patterns and explained, "Look, these patterns contain yin and yang, the 5 elements, karma, the world of mortals, and even the 6 paths of reincarnation." As she explained them one by one, Xianxia's expression became more and more solemn. "It's actually so mysterious? You don't know much about formations, so your understanding isn't as deep as mine. I'm sure that even in the ancient times, there wouldn't be such a mysterious item. It must be an item of immortals or even gods." Mo Tiange's tone was resolute and decisive. Her formations were inherited from the Xuanji formation book and Mo Yaoqing. Both of them were the peak of formations in the present world. There were also many books from the distant past era and even the virtual sky world. It could be said that she was the person who had the most understanding of ancient formations in the present world. She was sure that these patterns weren't the work of cultivators. At the very least, they were an item of immortals. She recalled the legend of the fallen god Abyss and said in a low voice, 2 deities fought in the westernmost area. One of them hacked down with his sword and formed the fallen god Abyss. I'm afraid the deities in the westernmost legend weren't cultivators but real immortals. As long as humans don't go extinct, the things that happened in the past will be passed down to the world through all kinds of legends. Mo Tiange stared at the things on the ground for a long time and said, "Look, doesn't this look like a mirror?" She nodded and suddenly smiled. "It's just a bit too big. This is clearly a hand mirror. How big would a person have to be to use such a mirror?" Mo Tiange smiled. "Since it's a magic weapon, it can naturally be as big as one wants. This mirror must have been damaged during the fight, so it maintained its size during the fight." She naturally knew this, but he was just joking. After joking, he muttered, "It seems that the fallen god Abyss is really the battlefield of 2 immortals. The so-called spirit-sucking powder is actually the material of this magic weapon. No wonder we couldn't find spirit-sucking powder even after searching through ancient books and records. It turns out it's from an immortal's magic weapon." As she spoke, Mo Tiange's imagination ran wild. Since this is the place where immortals fought, could there be other treasures? "Quick, let's go look for them." She pulled Xianxia and wanted to dig 3 feet into the ground. Xianxia laughed. "What do you think an immortal's magic weapon is? Is it everywhere? Just look for it. It's not like we'll lose anything." All right. It was indeed a pity to let go of this opportunity. The fallen god Abyss was full of strange gales, and they couldn't use their divine sense to the fullest. Apart from digging 3 feet into the ground, there seemed to be no other way. Mo Tiange simply released the 4 spiritual beasts and the stone from the virtual sky world. Dig! The 4 spiritual beasts all had different expressions when they heard that. Xiaofeng reacted quickly and immediately said, "Then I'll go over there." Xiaofan answered obediently, "Oh, then where should I dig?" Fei Fei's expression darkened. He looked at Xiaofeng and then at Xiaofan, but in the end he restrained himself and said, "Stone, let's go." Since the spiritual beasts transformed one after another, he had lost his unique overlord status. Fortunately, he had Stone. No matter what he did, Stone would always be his staunchest supporter. Xiaohua said, "Master, I can't do this kind of thing. Why don't you let me follow you?" Its black eyes moved back and forth with a pleading look on its face. Mo Tiange's eyebrows twitched and she said, "Follow Xiaofeng. Remember, listen to Xiaofeng." Oh. Xiaohua's expression darkened. While she wasn't paying attention, it rolled its eyes at Xiaofeng and said, "Let's go." Xiaofeng smiled and pretended not to see it. She led Xiaohua away, but when she turned around, her hands were clenched. How could Mo Tiange not know about the turbulent undercurrents among spiritual beasts? Xiaohua liked to play, but Xiaofeng always disciplined it. Therefore, after Xiaofeng transformed into a human being in the 8th rank, Xiaohua would trip her up from time to time. Unfortunately, her level was too low, so she couldn't play against Xiaofeng. It was foreseeable that when she came back later, she would cry and complain again. "Xiaofan, follow us." In comparison, Xiaofan was an obedient child who did what she said. The 2 of them and 4 spiritual beasts, no, 5 of them. They scraped the ground of all the places they could go in the fallen god Abyss, but they didn't find any magic weapons. They only found some traces of fights of magical powers. Tiange, don't you think something's wrong? Tiange didn't understand what he meant. Am I? What's wrong? She thought for a while, then shook his head. Maybe it's just an illusion. I always feel that this place is too clean. Except for this magic weapon embedded in the mountain wall, there's nothing else left. Do you mean someone else came here? It's hard to say. She couldn't figure it out, so he didn't mention it. Forget it. Even if there was, we can't trace it. Let's go back. They recalled all the spiritual beasts into the virtual sky world and set off for Xianxia School. A few days ago, Nie Wuxiang came back from Mount Lang Tuesday. She said she had a great harvest and wanted to enter closed-door meditation to prepare some life-saving techniques. Yang Qingji and Ling Yunhe just got in touch and said they would come back after some time. This just happened to give them time to refine their magic treasures. The two of them didn't delay and also entered closed-door meditation to refine magic weapons without stopping. This time, it went smoothly. With enough spirit-absorbing powder and the pattern on the mirror frame, Tiange was inspired a lot. After several months, the new magic weapon was finally produced. After testing it in the virtual sky world, the two of them were very satisfied with the new magic weapon. It could attack and defend, was invisible and intangible, and was impossible to guard against. Based on the material, this magic weapon could be regarded as a top magic weapon in the world. This treasure matches your fighting style very well. With this treasure, your strength won't be inferior to mine. She put the magic weapon named Chaotic Heavenly Transformation Box in her hand. Tiange wasn't polite. She knew her advancement to the middle stage was simply because she took advantage of Hu Pe, so her strength didn't improve much. In terms of cultivation level, she was now in the same realm as Qin Shi, but in a fight of magical powers, she was inferior to him. Moreover, Qin Shi had always been focused. For him, the vermilion bird bow was enough. More magic weapons would only distract him. When they came out of closed-door meditation, Gujian sect sent news that Yang Qingji and Ling Yunhe had arrived. Tiange and Qin Shi immediately went to Lord Daoist Jinyang's Immortal's cave to inform him. They had mentioned this before, so Lord Daoist Jinyang already knew about it. He said, "Shoujing Qingwei, when you went to Yunzhong, the sect couldn't spare any manpower. Now that the situation is good, I want Lingxi to go with you. Are you willing?" "Of course," Qin Shi said, "our trip isn't treasure hunting. The more manpower, the better." Lord Daoist Jinyang nodded. "In fact, I'm a bit worried about the three of you going, but Xianyin and Miaoyi have been busy with the sect for decades and are now in closed-door meditation, so I can't disturb them. Lingxi is on the verge of a breakthrough. It'll be good for him to go with you." Qin Shi bowed. "Yes, we'll definitely work together with junior martial brother Lingxi and watch out for each other." Lord Daoist Jinyang smiled gently. "In the tens of thousands of years since our sect was established, our Xianxia school may not be the strongest, but we've always been the most harmonious. This is the foundation of our sect, so I believe you'll all return safely." After encouraging them, Lord Daoist Jinyang said, "Junior martial brothers Jing and Huayan brought back some things from Kuanzhong City. In addition, I also have something for you." He then gave them a Qiankuan bag. Qin Shi took it, looked at it, and said in surprise, "Senior martial brother Jinyang, take it with ease." Lord Daoist Jinyang looked at them with a smile. "You're the hope of the new generation of Xianxia School. You've sacrificed so much for the future of the sect, so it's worth it." Out of thousands of words, he finally said, "We'll all return safely." Chapter 663. Several days later, Tiange, Qin Shi, Nie Wuxiang, and Lord Daoist Lingxi left Mount Taikong and went to Gujian sect. 4 nascent soul cultivators came to visit at the same time, which shocked the Gujian sect disciples so much that his eyes almost fell out. He hurriedly went to report, and Jing Xingji didn't delay and immediately welcomed them in. Compared to Mount Taikong, Gujian sect's encampment was much steeper, and Jing Xingji's cave was even more so. This fellow chose a lone peak as his abode, and it was a direct path that was utterly impossible for anyone to live in. He lived alone at the peak of the mountain, and he only left 2 managing disciples to take care of it, causing him to seem cold, aloof, and have the bearing of an expert. Xianxia clicked her tongue in admiration. Living alone on a peak, Gujian sect is really generous. Xingji pouted. That's where they're generous. He was referring to the peak at the back, which was the highest peak of Gujian sect. Compared to this lone peak, that peak was more imposing and had better scenery. Although it was Xianxia's first time here, she knew it was where venerable swordsman Yuanying's cave was. She smiled and said, Senior Yuanying is obviously training you as her successor. Won't it be yours in the future? Upon hearing that, Xingji hurriedly waved his hand. Don't talk nonsense. I still have 2 senior martial brothers in my sect. He looked very humble. Xianxia and Ye Wushang rolled their eyes. She couldn't help but smile. Fellow Daoist Jing, when did you become so cautious? I've always been cautious, okay? Xingji also rolled his eyes. In fact, before he left Gujian sect, he had always been cautious in the sect. People from venerable swordsman Fuling's sect were always watching him. If he wasn't cautious, he would be caught. It was just that he had a cynical nature, so after leaving Gujian sect, he inevitably became a bit dissolute. When they entered the cave, Ling Yunhe and Yang Qingji were already waiting for them. They greeted each other and sat down. They hadn't seen each other for dozens of years, but both of them had advanced to the middle stage. Xianxia looked them up and down. Yang Qingji was as silent as ever and couldn't see anything. Ling Yunhe looked less gloomy, seeming to have been living well these years. Ling Yunhe looked at them and said with a smile, I really couldn't tell in the past, but not only do fellow Daoist Qin and Mo come from famous cultivation groups, fellow Daoist Jing is also extraordinary, and fellow Daoist Yang is the successor of the #1 cultivator in the Celestial Pole. What's wrong with you cultivators of the Celestial Pole? All of you ran to Yunzhong, making us Yunzhong cultivators feel ashamed? Xianxia shook the teacup in her hand. Fellow Daoist Ling, what are you talking about? Could it be that your Yunzhong doesn't have any talented cultivators? Even the 2 of you are not older than us when you formed your nascent soul. Among the 7 people present, Qin Shi, Xingji, and Lord Daoist Lingxi were slightly older, Ling Yunhe and Ye Wushang were in the middle, and Yang Qingji and Xianxia were the youngest. 4 nascent soul cultivators, being over 100 years old wasn't even worth mentioning. Among them, Qin Shi, who advanced to the nascent soul realm the earliest, was only 100 years old. Now, just like them, he was in the middle stage of the nascent soul realm. What are you talking about? You're the youngest among us to form our nascent soul. Are you trying to provoke us? Lingyan said half-jokingly. Xianxia smiled and waved her hand to beg for mercy. Okay, I said something wrong, okay? After chatting for a while, Xingji got to the point. Fellow Daoists, it wasn't convenient to communicate before, so I didn't tell you about the Qilin sacrificial temple in detail. Now that everyone is here, I'll tell you about the location and situation of the sacrificial temple. He took out several jade slips, 1 for each person, and gave them to them. This is a map. We'll have a long way to go, and there'll be many dangers. If we get separated, we'll go there by ourselves. We won't waste our time waiting for anyone, so we have to be careful. No one had any objections. They all knew the current situation of Shaoyang. Yunzhong moved northward. Shaoyang was surrounded by a vast sea, and the north was connected to the former South Sea of the Celestial Pole, which was extremely dangerous. Xingji found out that the Qilin sacrificial temple was in Shaoyang, but the location was a bit off. As for where it was, they had to search carefully. If it went missing on the sea, how could other people find it? Lord Daoist Lingxi probed with her divine sense and found a clear map drawn in the jade slip. Several points were marked on it, and they were the places where Gujian sect disciples found the Qilin's breath. The experiences and deductions of many disciples were recorded densely on the side, and it was extremely detailed. His heart stirred slightly, and he sent a voice transmission to Qin Shi, Senior Martial Brother Shoujing, this map is too detailed. Who exactly is this fellow Daoist Jing? When going on a joint expedition, the person in charge would usually keep some important information, but the level of detail on this map was far beyond what they could tell their companions. It seemed to be all the information Gujin sect disciples found. Xianxia smiled and said, "Rest assured, this information is all true." Lord Daoist Lingxi didn't ask any more questions, but he had a different attitude towards Jing Xingji. It seemed that this venerable swordsman Jing of Stillwater and senior martial brother Shoujing trusted each other to an unusual degree. As you can see, we can only confirm that the Qilin is at the bottom of Xiaoyang Sea, but the location is a bit off. That sea area is unimaginably dangerous. Core formation disciples can't explore it, so we can only do it ourselves. Ling Yunhe cupped his hands and thanked him sincerely. Fellow Daoist Jing, this information has saved us a lot of effort. It's all thanks to you that we can find out the location of the Qilin's sacrificial temple. Jing Xingji waved his hand. Don't mention it. I've always reaped the fruits of others' labor. Now that I have the ability, I should do my best. Okay, I've said what I wanted to say. Do you have anything else to add? No one spoke. Xianxia said, I have one thing to ask. He pointed at Lord Daoist Lingxi next to him. My junior martial brother will also go to Xiaoyang. Does anyone have any objections? Although he said, everyone, he was actually asking about Yang Qingji and Ling Yunhe. They brought Lord Daoist Lingxi here, and Jing Xingji didn't hide anything, so how could the two of them not know? Now that Xianxia told him frankly, Ling Yunhe said, we're not going to fight for treasures. If fellow Daoist Lingxi is willing to go with us, I'm more than happy to. Yang Qingji only said 3 simple words, I have no objections. Xianxia smiled and said, similarly, if you have someone to go with you, you can come with us. They looked at each other. Jing Xingji was the first to shake his head. Gujian sect isn't like Xianxia school. My martial uncle Yuanying has to oversee the sect, and one of the 2 remaining senior martial brothers has to go to Qinzhong City. We don't have enough manpower. Then he looked at Ling Yunhe. Ling Yunhe smiled bitterly. Although I've regained martial uncle Yuanmu's favor, he still doesn't believe this matter. Besides, Yunzhong has been in chaos these years, and Zhuoyan sect is short of manpower. I was able to leave because martial uncle Yuanmu gave me special authority. As for Yang Qingji, he didn't need to say anything. Does this guy have other friends? Then it's settled. As the host, Jing Xingji made the decision. If there's nothing else, we'll leave tomorrow. No one had any objections. They were already prepared to meet here. The next day, before leaving, Jing Xingji went to bid farewell to Venerable Swordsman Yuanying, and Immortal and the others also greeted him. Venerable Swordsman Yuanying didn't say much. It was impossible for Jing Xingji to hide this from him. He already said what he should say and do, so he just said a few words and told the disciples to send them off. After leaving Gujin sect, Ling Yunhe sighed. In the past, the cultivators of Yunzhong always thought Yunzhong was ranked first. The outer seas, whether it was Yuanzhou, Xiaoyang, or the celestial pole across the ocean, they couldn't compare to Yunzhong. Now that I think about it, they were really ignorant and arrogant. The celestial pole has geniuses like you and a senior like Venerable Swordsman Yuani. Even if they don't have enough people, they're not worse than Yunzhong. Emo Tiange joked. Fellow Daoist Ling, when you went to Xianxia school, why didn't you sigh like this? Is Xianxia school not as good as Gujin sect? Ling Yunhe shook his head with a smile. No. Xianxia school is indeed powerful and only lacks in number of nascent soul cultivators compared to Zhuoyan sect. However, Xianxia school's cultivators have never exceeded what I've seen. As for Gujin sect, fellow Daoist Jing Sr. is completely different from the cultivators of Yunzhong. Jing Xingji was curious. May I know what's different about martial uncle Yuanying? Ling Yunhe said, although Yunzhong doesn't have a powerful sword cultivation group like Gujin sect, it also has a lot of sword cultivators. The cultivation path of sword cultivators is nothing more than one sword to break 10,000 laws, and once the sword is drawn, there's no turning back. This senior Yuanying is different. He has the spirit of a sword cultivator, but he also has the breadth of mind of a Dao cultivator. In the current cultivation world, sword cultivators only remember to cultivate the sword, but how many people remember that the reason why sword cultivators are different from martial cultivators is because sword cultivators have Taoism as their foundation? Even fellow Daoist Jing, aside from tempering your mental state, you don't attach too much importance to your Tao foundation, right? At first, he was just curious, but as he listened, Jing Xingji's expression became serious. This was an evaluation of sword cultivators he'd never heard before. To put it bluntly, sword cultivators nowadays are too obsessed with power, so they've become a side path. As for this senior Yuaning, he's crazy about swords, but he's more tolerant. This is something that all the sword cultivators in the world, including fellow Daoist Jing, can't compare to. Yes, Jing Xingji couldn't help but say, everyone in the celestial pole knows that martial Uncle Yuaning is upright and never biased. Even when I wasn't willing to return to Gujian sect, he could still casually give me a huge, fated chance. This kind of breadth of mind is indeed unparalleled. Of course, this is just my personal opinion. Fellow Daoist Jing, you don't have to believe everything, Ling Yunhe added. At this moment, Jing Xingji was overwhelmed with emotions. How could he really not believe it? Ling Yunhe's words seemed to have opened a new door for him, letting him know that there was another way to walk the path of a sword cultivator, and this example was right beside him. Aside from Jing Xingji thinking hard along the way, the group of 7 of them flew to the small town where the long-distance transporting formation was located and used it to go to Yunzhong. Then Ling Yunhe showed up and teleported from Nanzhou to a small island in the boundless sea. Back then, when the continents changed their positions, the transporting formation between Yunzhong and Shaoyang couldn't be used anymore. There was also the South Sea of the Celestial Pole in between, so it was extremely dangerous. Later on, a nascent soul cultivator bypassed the South Sea of the Celestial Pole from the east and spent several years to find a relatively safe small island near Shaoyang. He re-established the transporting formation there, and only then was he able to get in touch with Shaoyang. Furthermore, he even used this opportunity to restore contact with Yuanzhou. Nie Wuxiang had walked this path before. Once they arrived at the island, she said, "I'll lead the way." Chapter 664. To prevent the cultivators of Shaoyang City from plundering, a nascent soul cultivator was stationed on this island. He also set up a transporting formation to Yuan Province to facilitate trading with Yuan Province. Originally, it would be safer to go to Shaoyang via Yuan Province, but according to the nascent soul cultivator stationed there, Yuan Province was currently in a fierce battle with the demon cultivators continent. Demon cultivators had completely occupied Yuan Province, so going to Yuan Province wasn't a good choice. The nascent soul cultivator stationed on the island was an early-stage cultivator with a lifespan of more than 1,000 years. He probably had no hope of advancing and didn't want to be involved in disputes, so he left Yunzhong and lived here. He was familiar with Ling Yunhe. Seeing that most of them were in the middle stage of the nascent soul realm and were in their prime, he was very envious. He also received spiritual plants from Mo Tiange, so he told them about the nearby situation and gave them a detailed sea map. With this detailed sea map and Ye Wuxiang, who was familiar with the route, the 7 of them set out directly to Shaoyang City by sea. Along the way, sea beasts were everywhere. Most of them were in the 6th or 7th rank, and there were also some in the 8th or 9th rank, but they just stayed far away when they saw them. Mo Tiange looked at the numerous sea beasts under her feet and couldn't help but say, "If we build a beast-hunting island here, it might not be inferior to one-leaf island." Fellow Daoist Mo is right. Ling Yunhe nodded in agreement. However, building an island here is too difficult and can't be completed in a short time. One-leaf island had to operate for more than 100,000 years to reach its current scale. Moreover, it had to be backed by the continent to have something to rely on. If there's only one island floating in the sea, it'll probably be destroyed in one go if it's surrounded by the demon cultivators. Mo Tiange was stunned. Fellow Daoist Ling, you're really thoughtful. I took it for granted. Ling Yunhe smiled. Fellow Daoist Mo doesn't know, but the cultivators in Yunzhong have long considered this matter. It's just that time was too tight and the situation changed greatly, so it was delayed until now. It's not because of my unique vision. After flying smoothly for several days, Nie Wuxiang was getting closer and closer to Shaoyang. Many islands already had traces of cultivators' activities. All of a sudden, she stopped on a deserted island. Fellow Daoist Nie, is there a problem? Qin, she asked. Nie Wuxiang shook her head and said, there are so many nascent soul cultivators in our group. If we enter the range of Shaoyang's 3 islands, it'll inevitably cause a commotion. Moreover, the Qilance aura appears at the periphery of Owl Sun, so it's best to stop here. Mo Tiange took out the map and compared it with the map. Their current location was very close to one of the points, so she said, what Wuxiang said is reasonable. We don't need to go any further. Since they said so, the others didn't have any objections. They all took out the maps to study. The disciples of Gujin's sect always found 3 points. Each of these 3 points was a sea area, and they were quite far away from each other. Their range was also quite large, and they surrounded the north of Fierce Sun in a ring shape. My disciples reported that there are often 8th-grade demonic cultivators in these 3 areas, so they couldn't investigate carefully. However, they're almost certain that they're in the vicinity of these 3 areas. Jing Xingji said, from what I can see, these 3 areas are quite large, and it will take a lot of effort to search. Why don't we split into 3 groups? It was indeed too wasteful for 7 nascent soul cultivators to search one area. Moreover, this place wasn't far from Fierce Sun Island, and there were only occasional 8th-rank demonic cultivators. Each of them was an outstanding cultivator, so why would they be afraid of this place? Everyone immediately agreed and began to discuss how to divide the spoils. Ling Yunhe was the first to speak. We'll split into 3 groups. We have 7 people. The strong ones will form a team of 2, and the weak ones will form a team of 3. Lord Daoist Lingxi took the initiative to step forward. Fellow Daoists are in the middle stage, but I'm still in the early stage, so I won't stand on ceremony. Next was Nie Wuxiang. I've just recovered from my serious injuries, so I won't force myself. Apart from them, the other 5 people didn't say anything. Mo Tiange had advanced to the middle stage more than 50 years ago, so her realm was stable and she had just refined a peerless magic weapon. Jing Xingji had Wanderer Ziwei's inheritance and the White Tiger's Pearl, so he was a bit stronger than Mo Tiange. Ling Yunhe had the Black Tortoise's inheritance and the Soul Restraining Pearl. Yang Qingji had the Heavenly Devil Tower, the most powerful of the 5 holy objects in Yunzhong. It really wasn't easy to tell which one of them was the weakest. Qin, she thought for a while, then said, Tiange, you're the one fellow Daoist Nie trusts the most. Why don't you go with junior martial brother Lingxi and fellow Daoist Nie? Mo Tiange nodded in agreement. Apart from the 2 of them, Lord Daoist Lingxi wasn't familiar with the others. If Qin she went with them, he wasn't familiar with Nie Wuxiang, so she was the best candidate. Qin she turned to the other 3 people and asked with a smile, which fellow Daoist wants to go with me? Under normal circumstances, it would naturally be Jing Xingji since the 2 of them were old partners. However, for the sake of average strength, he still asked. Before Jing Xingji could speak, Ling Yunhe smiled and said, I'd like to go with fellow Daoist. Qin she wasn't surprised and nodded. If there's no problem, then let's do it. Jing Xingji and Yang Qingji looked at each other and raised their eyebrows. It doesn't matter. After dividing into groups, the 3 groups each chose their own targets. Mo Tiange's group was naturally taken care of and was assigned to the closest one. Senior Martial Brother, Before she left, Mo Tiange called out to Little Feng from her spiritual beast bracelet. Little Feng will go with you, okay? Qin she nodded and said softly, Junior Martial Brother Lingxi's cultivation level is a bit weak, and fellow Daoist Nie has just recovered from her serious injuries. Your spiritual beasts are 8th rank, so it'll be safer if they go with you. Alright, I understand. After saying a few simple words, they called each other and flew away. Tiange, Nie Wuxiang called out while flying. What's wrong? Mo Tiange asked when she saw the doubt on her face. There's something I've been thinking about for several days. She frowned and said, The way Jingxingji found the Qilin's sacrificial temple was based on the location of the other 4 sacrificial temples, and this location was after the world changed. Why is it like this? Haven't these sacrificial temples been established for 1,000,000 years? Was today's world destined to become like this 1,000,000 years ago? We've thought about this, Mo Tiange said slowly. The reason why the world changed is related to our experiences in the Sea of Returning Ruins. You know this? Nie Wuxiang nodded. Mo Tiange went on to say, what did we trigger in the Sea of Returning Ruins to cause the world to change? The opening of the Immortal Palace in the Sea of Returning Ruins was full of all kinds of coincidences. As long as one condition wasn't met, it was very likely that it would never appear in the world again. To be honest, I don't think this result was foreseeable, so I think the world becoming like this today was just an accident. Moreover, how could the people or the gods from millions of years ago build a temple according to the result of the world becoming like this one day? Nie Wuxiang thought for a while and said, you mean, this world might have been like this from the beginning? Mo Tiange nodded gently. We speculate that this world was originally like this, but for some reason, it changed into its previous state. For example, several destructive catastrophes. Nie Wuxiang thought silently for a long time and said softly, it said that everything in the world has karma. The world has changed back to its original state, and we only hope it's peaceful in the distant past era. Mo Tiange didn't say anything. She also hoped that would be the case. She hoped they could smoothly find the Qilin's sacrificial temple, find the truth of the big secret that Amber called, find the true face of that gambling house, and obtain the chips to win. Junior Marshal Sister Qingwei, this is the place, right? Lord Daoist Lingxi's voice came into her ears. Mo Tiange turned around and compared it with the map. It should be. This place was a relatively calm sea area, not far from the 3 islands of Xiaoyang, so there weren't many sea beasts. Just now, they sensed an 8th-rank beast cultivator nearby, but when it discovered them, it also fled far away. Speaking of which, cultivators of Xiaoyang were really strange existences. Whether it was Yunzhong, the Celestial Pole, or Yuan Province, if cultivators from the 3 continents lived in a place like Xiaoyang, they would definitely do their best to catch beasts for their cultivation. But cultivators of Xiaoyang didn't. They seemed to be accustomed to plundering for a living, and they would rather go to Yuan Province to rob than to catch beasts in the sea. As a result, the environment around the 3 islands of Xiaoyang was still the same as before, and the number of sea beasts didn't decrease at all. Mo Tiange pressed her spiritual beast bracelet, releasing her 3 spiritual beasts and Stone, who was inseparable from Feifei. This wasn't her first time seeing this, but Nie Wuxiang still felt it was very spectacular. She clicked her tongue and praised, look at your posture. You're already very impressive even without fighting. Even cultivators of spiritual beast sect don't have so many 8th-rank spiritual beasts, right? The cultivation technique cultivated by cultivators of spiritual beast sect was very special. Their natal spiritual beasts were always at the same cultivation level as their cultivators. When their cultivation level reached a high level, they could fight 2 against 1, which was quite advantageous. However, there was only one natal spiritual beast, and it was also very difficult to raise other spiritual beasts to the 8th rank or above. Even Hua Lingyun, the head of spiritual beast sect, only had 2 spiritual beasts above the 8th rank. Wow, the sea! Xiaofan was the first to call out. Soon after, it looked at Mo Tiange with a longing gaze. Master, can I go down? Mo Tiange said, yes, I want you to go down. There's a Qilin's breath leaking out of this sea area. Go down and look for it. Xiaofan didn't say a word of nonsense. It suddenly revealed its true form, turned into a blue sea dragon, and jumped into the water. You guys too, Mo Tiange said to the other 2 spiritual beasts. Feifei curled its lips and didn't bother to ask anything. It just patted Stone's head and said, Stone, let's go. Xiaohua was a bit scared. Master, let me do something else. Can I not go down? She was a fire attribute spiritual beast, so she had a natural fear of the sea. Okay. Mo Tiange pointed at her feet. You stay here to support Xiaofan and Feifei. But Xiaohua agreed without having to go down to the sea. After arranging several spiritual beasts, Emotienga turned around and called out, "Senior Martial Brother Lingxi, should we go down and look for them?" Lord Daoist Lingxi stretched out his finger and flicked it. A verdant lotus leaf appeared in front of him. It immediately turned into a green aura and wrapped his whole body. "I'll go first. Junior Martial Sister and fellow Daoist Nya, be careful." After he finished speaking, he dove into the sea. "Wuxiang, let's go too." The two of them used their respective methods and dove into the sea. Chapter 665. He sank about 1,000 feet into the sea, and indeed, he could feel the weak aura of a Qilin. Emotienga stopped, closed her eyes, and put her palms together, silently operating her cultivation technique. Spiritual energy flowed out of his dantian, followed by the Qilin's breath. When the Qilin's breath filled his entire body, the aura of his kind around him became clearer. Emotienga opened her eyes and swam slowly along with the Qilin's breath. The Qilin's aura here was very strange. It was thin and indistinct, almost impossible to find. Even if she had the Qilin's aura, she couldn't sense where it came from. How could this be? Now that the Qilin's breath in her pursuit had stopped, Emotienga stopped and once again stimulated the Qilin's breath inside her body. But this time, it didn't last long before it disappeared. After thinking for a while, he still couldn't come up with a solution, so he decided to give up for the time being and swam upstream. Crash! Emotienga's head popped out of the water. With a flick of her sleeve, she shook off some water droplets, only to discover that Nya Wuxiang had already come up and was sitting cross-legged on the surface of the sea. "You're up here too?" She raised her eyebrows. "This is strange. I need to think about it." Nya Wuxiang also didn't disturb her. The two of them just sat cross-legged, facing each other in silence. After a while, there was another splash and Dao Lord Lingxi's head popped out of the water. "The two of you came this morning?" Dao Lord Lingxi flung the water droplets away and sat cross-legged a little further away. "I've found the Qilin's aura, but it's just too odd. I can't touch it or grab it." "You're right, Senior Brother Lingxi. I also have Qilin's breath in my body, but I can't sense it. Could it be that this Qilin's breath is only here and the Qilin's sacrificial temple isn't here? If it's not here, then where?" Nya Wuxiang said, "The azure dragon from the east, the vermilion bird from the south, the white tiger from the west, and the black tortoise from the north, all of them are in their respective positions, so Qilin should be in the center. Moreover, if the Qilin temple isn't here, then how do you explain the Qilin's aura here? Why did it turn out like this?" Emotienga muttered to herself. "Perhaps it's because the entrance to the Qilin's sacrificial temple has been concealed?" Dao Lord Lingxi suddenly said. Emotienga and Nya Wuxiang looked up at the same time. "What's wrong?" Seeing their expressions, Dao Lord Lingxi thought that she had said something wrong. Emotienga smiled. "Senior Martial Brother Lingxi is absolutely right. We can't find it because it's covered up. This Qilin aura was leaked out earlier. If that's the case, are we still going to keep looking?" Nya Wuxiang asked. "Let's contact them first." Emotienga took some time to think, then said, "Let's see how they're doing and whether they're also in the same situation." Just as he took out the voice-transmitting talisman, Lil Fan popped its head out and shouted, "Master, there are sea beasts, a lot of sea beasts." The three of them were stunned. Yifan quickly swam over, followed by Xiaohua and Feifei. He said, "The flow of the sea isn't right. There are many sea beasts coming this way." "A lot?" Emotienga was confused. She asked, "Where did they come from? What are you doing here?" "South, from the south." Yifan nudged her anxiously. "Let's go to the shore. There are thousands, no, tens of thousands of them, 10,000 sea beasts?" Emotienga's face was a bit pale. If tens of thousands of sea beasts swarmed her, even if there weren't any 8th-rank demonic beast cultivators, it would still be hard for her to deal with them. Besides, this was simply impossible since there were 8th-rank demonic beasts in the vicinity. "Let's go!" Feifei shouted from behind. "Maybe they're sea beasts that came out to look for food. Or maybe the demonic beasts on the demonic cultivator continent were driven away by demonic beasts. We can't stay in the water. Let's go. Lord Daoist Lingxi immediately stood up. Let's hide on the shore and find a chance to meet up. Mo Tienga didn't hesitate. She activated the sound-transmitting talisman, then quickly summoned several spirit beasts, put them into the spiritual beast bracelet, and shot towards the nearest island. The other two teams obviously found out earlier than her. When she sent out the sound-transmitting talisman, they received Qin Shi's and Jing Xingji's voice messages one after another. Their messages were concise and comprehensive, expressing the same meaning. There are many sea beasts in the south. Hide quickly. When they set foot on the island, their divine senses had already found traces of many sea beasts. The three of them didn't say anything and found a cave. Mo Tienga quickly took out a formation and laid it, concealing her breath and hiding inside. These sea beasts were getting closer and closer, and the buzzing sound lingered in their ears. Mo Tienga silently calculated with her divine sense. Xiaofan was right. There were at least tens of thousands of them. The lowest ones were in the 3rd or 4th rank, while the higher ones were in the 8th rank, 9th rank, and 10th rank. Where did they come from? Did they gather together to hunt for food? That shouldn't be possible, right? Or maybe they came from the demon cultivator continent. It was as if thousands of soldiers and horses were trampling over their heads. The ground was shaking and the waves were rolling. The three of them were not low-level cultivators with shallow experience, but this kind of movement still caused their faces to turn pale. The sea beasts rushed past them like a tide and didn't seem to pay much attention to them. The three of them relaxed a little, but in the next moment, an 8th-rank beast cultivator stopped above them, followed by 2 9th-rank beast cultivators. They held their breaths, feeling like a huge rock was hanging on their chests. Suddenly, they sensed that one of the beast cultivators made a move. The three of them didn't even have time to say anything and quickly flashed out of the cave. Boom! With a loud noise, the cave they were hiding in was smashed to pieces. As soon as they came out of the cave, they saw a dense mass of flying sea beasts above them. Mo Tienga's heart sank. She pressed the spiritual beast bracelet and released all the spirit beasts. We can't hide anymore. Let's get to work. So many? Xiaohua exclaimed in surprise, feeling very guilty. Ever since she was a child, she had very few opportunities to fight. Mo Tienga waved the heaven and earth fan, and a bolt of lightning smashed the 6th or 7th rank demonic beasts near her. She said in a deep voice, "There's nothing we can do even if there are so many of them. Since we can't hide, we can only fight our way out." She raised her head and looked at the more and more beast cultivators gathering not far away. Almost all of these beast cultivators were in their original forms, and their eyes were full of hostility. Mo Tienga quietly released the puppets. She winked at the other two people and quickly rushed forward. It was definitely not a good idea to let the beast cultivators have time to gather. The faster they rushed out of the encirclement, the better. As long as they met with the other two groups, their chances of survival would be greatly increased. Seeing them rushing over, these beast cultivators were even more disgusted, but some were excited. They slightly changed their formation and assumed a fighting posture. They were actually beast cultivators who knew how to fight in groups. Nie Wushang's Devil Cloud was the first to be ready. She still had the habit of being a martial cultivator. She threw a heavy punch, and the Devil Cloud quickly attacked the beast cultivators. At the same time, Lord Daoist Lingxi waved her hand. Countless green flashed in the air and spread into a big green net. This big net gathered and suddenly turned into a towering ancient tree with a desolate ancient aura and endless vitality. In the face of them taking the initiative to attack, the demonic cultivators were on high alert, and they resisted the attacks of the demonic cultivators. Mo Tienga saw a 10th rank beast cultivator among them. He hadn't made a move yet and just watched coldly from the side. The other beast cultivators were in their original forms, but he was in his human form. His dark and thin appearance looked very familiar. When she saw the pair of wings on his back, Mo Tienga shivered and cried out involuntarily, "It's you!" The dark and thin beast cultivator's eyes were fixed on her, and his eyes narrowed ruthlessly. "So it's you." I didn't expect to see you again after we parted that year. He spoke in an unfamiliar human language with a strange accent. Surprisingly, he was the black beast cultivator who escaped from the returning ruins sea with them. When the returning ruins sea collapsed, 3 beast cultivators, black, white, and blue, escaped together. Mo Tiange and Yang Qingji triggered the nascent soul heavenly tribulation, but they triggered the transformation heavenly tribulation. After the heavenly tribulation, wind and rain intertwined, and the world changed. Yang Qingji escaped from the sea, and Mo Tiange, Qin Shi, and Jing Xingji went to Yuan province. The 3 beast cultivators were nowhere to be seen. It turned out they had become the leaders of the beast cultivators in the sea. Nie Wuxiang and Lord Daoist Lingxi looked at them in surprise. Nie Wuxiang said, "Tiange, how do you know this beast cultivator?" Mo Tiange waved her hand, indicating that they would talk later. She raised her voice and said, "So it's fellow Daoist Old Black. Fellow Daoist escaped after we parted in the returning ruins sea. Congratulations." The dark and thin beast cultivator laughed and said, "I have to thank you. If it weren't for you, we would have been trapped in the ice palace for the rest of our lives. How could we have left? How could we have the glory we have today? I wouldn't dare. It was just a coincidence." Mo Tiange paused for a moment, then raised her voice and asked, "Fellow Daoist Old Black, may I ask why you're doing this?" The dark and thin beast cultivator looked at her and said indifferently, "I'm afraid it's not convenient for you to know." His refusal was stiff and his eyes were ruthless, as if he wanted to attack her at any time. Mo Tiange didn't want to fight him right away. With so many beast cultivators, wouldn't she die of exhaustion? "You're right. It's useless for us to know about beast cultivators." The dark and thin beast cultivator narrowed his eyes. "This is the territory of beast cultivators. Why did you come here?" Mo Tiange paused for a moment, then said, "Fellow Daoist, you're wrong. The sea is the habitat of sea beasts like you, but there are also humans living on the island. How could it be the territory of beast cultivators?" The dark and thin beast cultivator said in a bad tone, "Didn't you humans come to the sea to hunt beasts? You have a glib tongue, but you still can't change this fact." Mo Tiange also snorted coldly. "Since when were you beast cultivators friendly to humans? Didn't you order low-level demonic beasts from time to time and use them, who haven't developed spiritual wisdom, to rob humans of their medicinal pills and magic weapons to pave the way for you to take human form? You beast cultivators weren't good at bickering." Mo Tiange's words rendered the dark and thin beast cultivator speechless. He wanted to say he took human form in the Immortal Palace in the returning ruined sea, but if he said that, it would seem like he admitted what she said. Just as Mo Tiange was about to say something to ease the situation and coexist with the beast cultivator, an earth-shattering strike suddenly came from the distance. The other 4 people had already fought with the beast cultivator. Old Black turned his head to look and instantly became furious. He shouted, "Kill them!" The beast cultivators around him responded in unison. They rubbed their fists and were about to pounce on Old Black. Mo Tiange groaned inwardly, but she had no choice but to shout, "Go!" Chapter 666. 3 people, 3 spirit beasts, and a puppet could barely be regarded as 7 nascent soul cultivators. As for the stone, Mo Tiange had already ignored it. Although the stone couldn't be affected by spells, it hadn't taken a human form, and it might never take a human form, so it was impossible for it to hurt these beast cultivators. On the other hand, after Lao He gave the order to kill, he glanced coldly at them, and then he led the demon cultivators away without any reluctance to leave. The low-grade sea beasts that dashed past in the surroundings didn't intend to stay either, and they flew forward as if they were nothing. More than a dozen beast cultivators were left behind, confronting them with swords drawn. Nie Wuxiang was the first to attack. She combined the 2 from a martial cultivator to a devil cultivator, and her fighting style was direct and fierce. The color of the devil cloud around her became darker and darker, like a drop of ink, and she rushed toward the beast cultivators. Boom, boom, boom. Every punch carried the power to crack rocks and mountains, as well as a strange corrosive aura. The several beast cultivators who rushed in front were caught off guard and hit by her. They flew far away like kites with broken strings. Seeing this scene, the beast cultivators who didn't take them seriously became a little nervous. At the same time, 2 9th rank and 1 8th rank flew out, intending to surround Nie Wuxiang. Mo Tiange snorted and waved the heaven and earth fan. With a roar, an azure dragon appeared, spewing golden lightning and pounced on one of the 9th rank beast cultivators, throwing him far away from Nie Wuxiang. The appearance of the azure dragon shocked the beast cultivator. Divine sovereign? This is the breath of a divine sovereign. All the beast cultivators were panic-stricken. How could this human have the breath of a divine sovereign? Divine sovereigns had already disappeared in the human world. Could it be like what the Qilins in the Shumi Sea said, that the descendants of divine sovereigns had appeared? But what did this have to do with human cultivators? Or did her magic weapon come from killing divine sovereigns? Before they could figure it out, they suddenly saw the seawater around the small island boil and rush to the other side. At this time, Yi Fun was in his human form. He was a young man with a calm face. His blue and gray clothes were fluttering in the fierce sea breeze. At first glance, he looked inconspicuous, but with a little attention, one would find that his whole body was filled with a kind of vast and sacred spiritual qi, which made his whole body as transparent as the purest water, clean and without any impurities. His eyes were tightly closed, and his palms were clasped together as he performed a hand seal. A ball of extremely pure, water-blue spiritual qi appeared between his fingers and gradually grew stronger. With the appearance of this ball of spiritual qi, the surrounding waves seemed to be controlled by a mysterious power. Even the water attribute demon cultivators among them could not absorb the water spiritual qi from it. When the spiritual qi had increased to a certain level, he opened his eyes and pointed a finger. A shadow that was the combination of a turtle and a snake suddenly appeared. It glanced coldly at the crowd of demon cultivators, and in an instant, a huge wave that was hundreds of feet high rose from the sea and slammed down on them. Crash! A huge force came crashing down, and most of the beast cultivators were so shocked that they forgot to move and were knocked to the ground. However, it had not been long since Xiaofan advanced, so the black tortoise shadow she summoned wasn't very powerful. Moreover, it was shared equally by the crowd of demon cultivators, so it only made them uncomfortable for a while. However, the appearance of the black tortoise shadow made these demon cultivators go crazy. Black tortoise divine sovereign. That's the black tortoise divine sovereign. A demon cultivator shouted. You're surprised just like that? Fei Fei snorted and revealed his true form. He was the first among the few spirit beasts to obtain a divine beast's aura. Moreover, what he obtained was a spirit beast's true form. He deliberately released it, and the white tiger's aura that surged all over his body was incomparably strong. Fei Fei was shrouded in golden light. In an instant, a white tiger shadow descended and overlapped with his true form. Ha! With a shout, the white tiger shadow became clearer and clearer, and the white tiger's aura also became stronger and stronger. Suddenly, he flew forward, his 4 feet flat on the ground, and left a series of white tiger footprints in the air. With the white tiger shadow around him, Fei Fei was like a copperhead with iron arms. He crashed into everything in his way without holding back. The demon cultivators with slightly lower cultivation were all sent flying by him. Although he was the last to advance to the 8th rank, his strength grew the fastest after he advanced to the 8th rank. At that moment, Xiaohua also revealed her true form. The vermilion bird's flames gushed out and burned. Compared to Xiaofan and Fei Fei who obtained the divine beast's aura directly, Xiaohua was a bit weaker. This was because her vermilion bird's aura came from Xiaofeng, and she wasn't a descendant of the phoenix, so her bloodline evolution wasn't as thorough as Xiaofeng's. But she had her advantages. She lived the longest in the virtual sky world, ate the most spiritual plants, and had the strongest body. These demon cultivators were already numb. First it was azure dragon, then it was black tortoise, then white tiger and vermilion bird. How could there be so many divine sovereigns' auras? Who are these people in the end? Should they fight back? Their instinctive reverence for divine sovereigns made them unable to fight back without any scruples. Right at that moment, the distant horizons suddenly lit up. The blue sky and white clouds contrasted with the flames, making them look particularly distinct. A phoenix cry came from afar. "Phoenix!" A demon cultivator cried out involuntarily as he watched the approaching firebird. All the demon cultivators' gazes turned in that direction. "Xiaofeng!" Emotienga watched as Xiaofeng leisurely flew closer and stared at these demon cultivators with a proud and indifferent gaze. Although she was only in the 8th rank and among these demon cultivators, 9th rank demon cultivators weren't rare. Under her gaze, the demon cultivators couldn't help but look at her in awe. After a moment of silence, a demon cultivator summoned his courage and asked, "May I ask if you're Lord Divine Sovereign?" With flames dancing around her, Xiaofeng's entire body was filled with a noble and sacred aura. She answered faintly, "I'm a descendant of a divine sovereign." Divine sovereign. It's really a divine sovereign. The demon cultivators instantly became restless. "Calm down. Calm down." Some demon cultivators shouted, "There are descendants of divine sovereigns in this world. What's so strange about that? If they're really divine sovereigns, why would they be with humans and become enemies with us demon cultivators? Divine sovereigns are ours, not humans." Upon hearing this, the commotion among the demon cultivators quickly subsided, and they began to whisper to each other. "But this kind of aura, why isn't it a divine sovereign? We demon cultivators have a natural instinct. It's impossible for us to mistake a divine sovereign." "That's true, but what Big Brother Wu said makes sense. How could a divine sovereign ignore us and stand on the human side?" "That's right. In my opinion, these humans used some unknown method to steal the aura left behind by a divine sovereign. That's why." "Impossible. If there's really a divine sovereign aura left behind, why didn't we demon cultivators know about it and let the humans take advantage of it? They don't have 1 or 2 types of divine sovereign aura, but 4. What's the reason for such a coincidence? If it's not a coincidence, it means that they're scheming and harboring evil intentions. Could it be that they're from Shumisi? Shumisi's sovereign bloodline claims to be the descendants of divine sovereign Qilin. With them, doesn't that make all the 5 spiritual divine sovereigns? So that's how it is. This time, Shumisi instigated a war with the Sea clan because they have ulterior motives. Then what's with these divine sovereign auras? What's with this Lord Divine Sovereign? This can't be faked. The dozen or so demon cultivators couldn't keep calm anymore. As soon as little Feng appeared, they started to quarrel among themselves. Lord Daoist Lingxi looked at them in surprise and whispered, "Junior Martial Sister Qingwei, look. Since little Feng came, it means Senior Martial Brother is safe," Mo Tiange replied. "It's best if these demon cultivators are in a mess without fighting. Fellow Daoist Lao He, their leader, isn't easy to deal with. Back then, he had 2 companions who came out of the Sea of Immortals with us. One of them had a cultivation level not lower than his. Since Lao He has advanced to the 10th rank, I'm afraid that person is also..." Mo Tiange paused and continued, "It turns out they invaded south because they got into trouble with Shumisi. Now I have an idea." She turned her wrist, and a palm-sized, glowing shell appeared in her hand. The shell seemed to have endless spiritual aura and some mysterious spells. Mo Tiange picked it up and blew it gently. A wonderful whining sound that seemed to come from the depths of the soul spread throughout the whole sea area. As soon as this sound was heard, the demon cultivators stopped arguing. After a long time, a demon cultivator shouted, "They really are from Shumisi." As soon as he said that, the demon cultivators, no longer afraid of little Feng, the descendant of a divine lord, swarmed over. Junior Martial Sister Qingwei. Lord Daoist Lingxi didn't know what to say about this change. "We'll have to fight sooner or later. Let's kill them first." After saying that, she used the great heavenly thunder spell, and a lightning net fell from the sky. In an instant, the island was in chaos as humans and demons fought fiercely. At the edge of the South Sea, Tens of thousands of Sea Clan troops were ready for battle. The leader was Xian Miao, the third princess of the South Sea. She no longer looked like Jin Jing in the Six Dao Palace. She was a 17 or 18-year-old girl wearing a blue palace dress and a qilin horn on her forehead. She looked mysterious, noble, and aloof. Not far from her were Xian Ri and Xian Yu, and behind her were Jie and Anai Chi. Jing Hu, Jing Tao, and other 10th-rank demon cultivators were further away, commanding the Sea Clan troops. Report. From afar, an 8th-rank demon cultivator flew over and knelt on one knee in front of Xian Miao. Third princess, the returning Ruin Sea's army is 1 day away. Xian Miao narrowed her eyes and asked in a deep voice, "How many are above 8th rank?" Third princess, according to the scouts, there are 9 10th rank, more than 29th rank, and about 50 to 68th rank. Hearing this number, Jie behind Xian Miao said softly, "More than half of the returning Ruin Sea's high-level demon cultivators are here. It seems they're determined to teach us a lesson this time." Xian Miao laughed mockingly. "They want to teach us a lesson this way? The returning Ruin Sea is looking down on us too much. We don't have fewer high-level demon cultivators than them, but they're still waiting for us to exhaust ourselves. They're really not smart enough." Of course. Jie's expression was cold, but her words were respectful. They're just ordinary demon cultivators. How can they compare to the noble bloodline of the sovereign? Besides, third princess is a real divine lord now. Xian Miao was smiling, but her smile suddenly froze and she took out a shell from her bosom. This shell glowed and was surrounded by spirit energy. At this moment, it vibrated inexplicably and gave off a humming sound. Report. Another 8th-rank demon cultivator flew over and knelt in front of Xian Miao. Third princess, a group of humans has stalled about half of the demon cultivators. They have the aura of the other 4 spirits. The returning Ruin Sea's army has stopped ahead. It's them? Third princess pondered for a moment and raised her hand. Send my order. The army is to move out and attack the enemy. Chapter 667. A towering ancient tree appeared in midair as if it was real. Lord Daoist Lingxi stepped out of it, his eyes emotionless. He stretched out his hand and waved it gently. An ancient tree suddenly fell down, blocking a beast cultivator's giant waves technique. There were more and more beast cultivators around them. At first, the sea beast army only sent these beast cultivators to stop them, and the sea beasts went forward as usual. Later, because they couldn't kill them and were stalled by them, many beast cultivators turned back, wanting to kill them all. Their side was in a good situation. There weren't many reinforcements. On Qin Shi and Jing Xingji's side, many beast cultivators rushed towards them. Mo Tiange was a little anxious and regretted taking out the token of Xumi Si just now. How could these beast cultivators recognize the token of the sovereign of Xumi Si? When she found out these beast cultivators had discord with Xumi Si, she wanted to use the token the third princess gave her to call for help, but she didn't expect these beast cultivators to be so familiar with Xumi Si that they even recognized this kind of token. In other words, Xumi Si and returning Ruins Si had been fighting for a long time? The nascent soul cultivator guarding the island only said the sea wasn't calm and there were beast cultivators coming and going from time to time, but he didn't know the relationship between the 2 seas had reached this point. Junior Marshal Sister Qingwei. Lord Daoist Lingxi's voice rang in her ears. Let's meet up with Senior Marshal Brother Shoujing as soon as possible. Hearing this, Mo Tiange immediately calmed down. Fluctuating emotions had no effect on breaking out of the encirclement. Besides, what was the use of temporarily delaying them? Qin Shi, Jing Xingji, and the others had already started fighting. If the beast cultivators saw them, they wouldn't let them go. You guys go in front, I'll cover. Although they had a lot of people, their strength wasn't equal. The 4 spirit beasts were all in the 8th rank. They cultivated slowly, so their strength didn't grow fast. Lord Daoist Lingxi's strength wasn't bad, but he was still in the early stage. Madam, don't worry, Xiaofeng said. Master can still hold on for the time being. I understand. Let's go, don't delay. She turned her gaze. Wuxiang, you and senior martial brother Lingxi go in front. Nie Wuxiang didn't say anything. She nodded and punched the 8th-rank beast cultivator in front, tearing their formation apart. Dao Lord Lingxi followed closely behind. He had a gentle personality and cultivated a wood-attribute cultivation technique. However, his combat style was straightforward and even a little violent. Even if a level 9 demonic cultivator stood in front of him, he would still attack with all his might even at the risk of both sides being injured. These beast cultivators didn't dare to fight with all because they were frightened at first and didn't dare to fight with all they had. Seeing them trying to escape, the beast cultivators stirred and formed a formation they didn't dare to fight with. Liamo and an I, and they saw. They and bye dares they as they and they and. However, the box suddenly stopped halfway and opened. The few demon cultivators were startled. Instinctively, they struck first to gain the upper hand, striking at the box. Unexpectedly, when the box was opened, it was empty. There was only a mysterious aura that seemed to contain all things. No matter what it was, it could be thrown into the box, but it also seemed to be able to destroy all things. Anything that came into contact with it would disappear. With a chi sound, the black longsword and the spikes on the box seemed to have hit something. They melted at a speed visible to the naked eye. The beast cultivators controlling the 2 magic weapons screamed as if they were seriously injured. What's this? 2 natal magic weapons were melted and destroyed in just one encounter. It was too terrifying. Natal magic weapons were connected to their masters' minds. If the magic weapons were destroyed, their masters would be injured. Not only would they die on the spot, but their cultivation levels would also drop. For a moment, the beast cultivators were afraid to run away. If their magic weapons were only injured, they could slowly recover, but why did they melt directly? Could they refine them again? Or could they not be saved? As soon as the chaotic heavenly box appeared, it stunned them. Emotienga took the opportunity to shout, "Go!" Without hesitation, Nie Wuxiang turned into an escape light and flew away, followed by Lord Daoist Lingxi and the 4 spirit beasts. When they all got out of the encirclement, Emotienga also fled. Fearing the chaotic heavenly box, the beast cultivators didn't dare to stop her and just surrounded her from a distance. Right at that moment, a white escape light flew over. The white escape light was extremely fast. In a flash, it arrived in front of her. Emotienga's speed was hindered by many beast cultivators, so she was soon blocked. When the escape light dissipated, a woman in white stood in the air and looked at Emotienga calmly. "Fellow Daoist, how have you been?" Emotienga was stunned. "You are? What? Don't you recognize me?" The woman in white smiled. Compared to the beast cultivators around her, her transformation was very perfect. Not only did she not look like a beast, but she was also dignified and elegant, surpassing many human women. "You're right. When we first met, I hadn't experienced heavenly tribulation, so I didn't know how to transform, so it was inevitable that I was a bit ugly." She smiled, making people feel like they were bathing in a spring breeze, but her hands were faintly flashing with lightning. A figure emerged in Emotienga's mind, and she said slowly, "You, fellow Daoist old Bai?" The woman in white nodded with a smile. "I'm Bailing. How should I address you?" "My surname is Mo, and my Daoist name is Qingwei." Emotienga wasn't in the mood to chat with her, so she went straight to the point. "Fellow Daoist Bai, why are you blocking my way? Do you have to ask fellow Daoist Mo?" Bailing's gaze swept over the chaotic heavenly box floating in front of her, and fear flashed in her eyes. "As a human, what are you doing in my sea race's territory?" Upon hearing this, Emotienga couldn't help but smile mockingly. Fellow Daoist Bai's words are strange. The sea race lives in the sea, but the islands in the sea are inhabited by humans. Since ancient times, humans have lived on the islands. When did the sea race become your sea race's territory? Besides, I haven't seen you beast cultivators leave the continent, so why can't you let humans set foot on the sea? Bailing frowned, but in the next moment, the great 10th rank beast's momentum suddenly pressed down. So you're saying you don't want to leave? Xianxia said faintly, we have no intention of getting involved in the sea races dispute. We came here for an important matter, and once we're done, we'll leave. But if you force us to leave, it won't be easy. Who knew whether all the clues here would be erased after the battle between the returning ruins sea and the Shumi Sea? It wasn't easy for them to find this place, so they definitely wouldn't give it up easily. If they really had to face hundreds of beast cultivators in the returning ruins sea, they might temporarily leave because they weren't strong enough. However, the information revealed by these beast cultivators was enough to prove that they were fighting with the Shumi Sea. If she could borrow the Shumi Sea's power, she wouldn't be polite. Besides, would these beast cultivators really let them go? Probably not. If they took advantage of their absence and attacked them from behind, wouldn't they be in a passive position? Do something? A trace of ruthlessness flashed across Bailing's face, and she asked in a deep voice, is it to steal the Divine Lord's breath? Xianxia was stunned, but her face remained calm. Fellow Daoist Bailing, why do you say that? Bailing snorted. Your Excellency, why do you think we have endless disputes with the Shumi Sea? It's because they claim to be the descendants of Divine Lord Qilin and want to steal the Divine Lord's breath in our sea area. Xianxia was shocked. It turned out the beast cultivators had long noticed the Qilin's breath here. Thinking about it carefully, she found it was right. The Qilin's breath was scattered in the sea, so how could the sea beasts not know about it? In this case, if they wanted to enter the Qilin's sacrificial temple, wouldn't they have to fight with the beast cultivators in the returning ruins sea and the Shumi Sea? In the Six Paths Palace, Hoopa once told the three mystical Qilins to help them find that secret if they needed it in the future. The Qilin's sacrificial temple was related to this matter, and they didn't want to fight for the Qilin's breath, so they probably wouldn't turn against them. When the time came, they could just cooperate with them. With this thought, Xianxia made up her mind and said calmly, fellow Daoist Bailing, I don't want to meddle in the affairs of your sea clans. However, after hearing what you said, I inevitably have a question. Can you answer it? Bailing raised her eyebrows. Fellow Daoist, if you have something to say, just say it. I'm afraid you won't have a chance in a while. Xianxia cupped her hands then asked in a rather humble tone, I remember that several dozen years ago, this place wasn't the sea region but Yunzhong. The south of Yunzhong was the Sea of Returning Ruins, and the north of Yunzhong was the Shumi Sea. Yunzhong is no longer here now, but this place can't be considered the Shumi Sea or the Returning Ruins Sea, right? Bailing narrowed its eyes and said fiercely, fellow Daoist, do you think the Divine Lord's breath in this place belongs to you humans? I don't dare. Xianxia suddenly put her palms together, and a divine, mighty breath burst out from her body. The expressions of Bailing and the beast cultivators around them suddenly changed. Divine Lord Qilin, Xianxia smiled and put down her hands. Lord Daoist Bailing, to be honest, my breath is a gift from a senior Divine Lord. For us humans, the Divine Lord's breath is indeed very powerful, but it can't change our physiques and evolve into a higher bloodline like you can. For me, the Qilin's breath is enough. I'm not interested in what you guys are fighting over. Hearing what she said, Bailing didn't say anything for a long time. This group of people was indeed difficult to deal with. They originally planned to kill them in one go, but they didn't expect that they still couldn't kill them until now. Instead, most of the 8th rank beast cultivators were stalled, which would be fatal for their upcoming decisive battle. Therefore, the army stopped and planned to kill these humans in one go. But if that was the case, it seemed that they didn't have a reason to be enemies. Don't believe her. Many beast cultivators stared at Xianxia with hostility. One of them shouted, humans are the most cunning. Besides, she just disabled Changba and Old Shrimp. We can't let her go. As soon as the beast cultivator finished speaking, someone immediately echoed, yes, we can't let her go. Her magic weapon is so terrifying. What if we sneak attack from behind? The crowd was so angry that Bailing didn't know what to say for a while. She sighed and spread her hands. Lightning formed a ball with flowing light and a mysterious breath. Sorry, we can't trust humans. Chapter 668. Xianxia sighed inwardly. She didn't expect the beast cultivators to let her go on their own. She only hoped to move Whitey with her words and buy some time for Xianxia and the others to meet up and come to save her. Now it seemed she didn't succeed. Just now, they had 7 nascent soul cultivators and a puppet, so they could deal with those beast cultivators. Now, she was the only one left. Even with the chaotic heaven transformation box, it would be difficult for her to face the siege of more than 10 beast cultivators, not to mention a 10th rank beast cultivator. The only thing she could do now was to kill her way out. She would do her best and leave the rest to heaven. If she really died here, it would be because she didn't have enough opportunities in this life to become an immortal. In her next life, she would come again. In an instant, she made up her mind, and her whole body emitted a piercingly cold killing intent. This killing intent made Whitey look at her. She originally didn't take human beings seriously, even if this human was the only person in the world who had gone through the nascent soul heavenly tribulation. She was an ancient beast cultivator who lived in the distant past space. In ancient times, nascent soul heavenly tribulation was very common. In her eyes, this human cultivator was just an ordinary nascent soul cultivator. However, this killing intent and that strange magic weapon made her feel that this human wasn't easy to deal with. Xianxia shook her sleeves, and an abundant spiritual aura filled her body. The chaotic heaven transformation box had disappeared. In front of Whitey, the lightning ball was white, then cyan, then purple, and finally golden. In just a short time, it directly evolved from white lightning to golden lightning. Seeing this scene, Xianxia's pupils shrank slightly. She also played with thunder spells, so how could she not know how rare golden lightning was? Except for herself, she hadn't seen anyone successfully cultivate golden lightning. Besides, she took advantage of the lightning from the heavenly tribulation. Otherwise, even if she practiced the great heavenly thunder spell, she might never see golden lightning in her life. That year in the Sea of Returning Ruins, the thunder spell this fellow Daoist by cast wasn't golden lightning, right? Did she hide her strength, or did she cultivate it later? Or was it cut from the heavenly tribulation like her? Either way, it wouldn't be easy to deal with. Waving the heaven and earth fan, the azure dragon holding lightning was the first to attack. Bai Ling sneered. She waved her sleeves and the thunderball in front of her flew out. The method of refining the heaven and earth fan was to integrate formations into tools and use formations to control tools. In order to cooperate with the cultivation technique Xianxia cultivated, the materials used were all of the 5 elements. It wasn't like ordinary magic weapons that focused on one of the 5 elements. Therefore, objects of the 5 elements could be transformed from it. However, because of the limitation of her cultivation level at first, the heaven and earth fan could only summon some flowers, birds, and phantoms of mountains and rivers. Later, when her cultivation level was higher and she nurtured it, it could summon the killing moves of the 5 elements. When her heavenly tribulation to form her nascent soul awakened the breath of the azure dragon, she could summon the shadow of the azure dragon. The azure dragon shadow was different from Xianxia's vermilion bird bow and Jing Xingji's white tiger slash. It was just that the 2 of them cultivated killing moves, so they had more destructive power than hers. The azure dragon shadow, on the other hand, mainly focused on defense and protection, so it was relatively gentle. However, this did not mean that the shadow of the azure dragon could not attack. It had its own unique attack method. The 2 kinds of golden thunderbolts collided. Bai Ling's golden thunderbolt was more powerful. With a puff sound, it was about to swallow Xianxia's small golden thunderbolt. Bai Ling smiled and looked at Xianxia leisurely. I don't know where fellow Daoist cultivated the golden thunderbolt, but I'm afraid fellow Daoist hasn't cultivated it to perfection. Before she could finish speaking, she suddenly heard a loud roar. The azure dragon, which was holding the golden thunderbolt in its mouth, bit a piece of Bai Ling's golden thunderbolt and swallowed it in one gulp. Bai Ling's expression suddenly changed. Xianxia couldn't help but laugh. Sorry, my great heavenly thunder spell isn't perfect, but the azure dragon's breath isn't fake. Bai Ling's eyes were fierce. She no longer talked to Imotienga. She made a hand seal and silently operated the art to manipulate the golden thunderbolt. The pressure on Imotienga suddenly increased. A great 10th rank monster wasn't fake. Moreover, this was a monster cultivator from the distant past era. However, she could only clench her teeth and hold on. There were more than 10 monster cultivators around her. Once she showed signs of being defeated, they would rush to her. Moreover, there was only a puppet guarding her. Bai Ling's advantage was her cultivation level. She had the strength of a 10th rank monster, so the golden thunderbolt she could manipulate was stronger than Imotienga's. But she also had an advantage. In addition to the golden thunderbolt, she also had the azure dragon. The golden thunderbolt was dead, but the azure dragon was alive. She closed her eyes. The heaven and earth fan floated in front of her. She silently mobilized the azure dragon's breath in the fan and slowly stimulated the azure dragon's shadow. Bai Ling seemed to feel the azure dragon was slowly becoming stronger. She snorted coldly and suddenly turned into 3 golden rays, shooting them towards Imotienga. Imotienga opened her eyes and stared coldly at Bai Ling. This was bullying her because her cultivation level wasn't high enough and she couldn't be distracted during the wrestling. The golden rays arrived in an instant. The puppet beside her suddenly took a step forward and slashed down with the Fuxing sword. Chi, 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 the golden rays hit the Fuxing sword and were all blocked. The puppet, however, suddenly lost its strength and fell down. Bai Ling chuckled. You don't even have a helper now. There are so many beast cultivators here. Can you beat them? Imotienga snorted but didn't answer. It seemed she didn't care at all. In fact, her heart was extremely heavy. There were more than 10 beast cultivators and one of them was a 10th rank great beast. How could she escape the encirclement by herself? She couldn't help but look into the distance. Unfortunately, she didn't see the flight light flying towards her. Bai Ling noticed it and her smile became even sweeter. Is that your husband? Unfortunately, he can't come. Old Hay is over there. It's good enough that he can protect himself. Peh. Imotienga showed an extremely confident smile. Protect myself? Fellow Daoist Bai seems to think too highly of you beast cultivators. You're fighting with the sea of returning ruins, right? I'm afraid that when the time comes, the 8th rank and above beast cultivators will suffer heavy losses and won't be able to fight anymore. Naive. Bai Ling felt ridiculous. Just as she was about to mock her, her smile suddenly stopped and she showed an extremely surprised expression. Behind her, an ice crystal-like box appeared silently and an invisible aura wrapped around her arm. The aura of the primal chaos was invisible and invisible. Bai Ling had been guarding against the chaotic heavenly box for a long time, but she didn't expect this magic weapon to be so terrifying. With a pained expression, she waved her hand and chopped off her right arm. Then she moved in a flash. As soon as she moved, the golden lightning, which was no longer under her control, was swallowed by Azure Dragon. Bai Ling spat out a mouthful of blood and glared at Imotienga. Naive? Fellow Daoist Bai, are you talking about yourself? Azure Dragon returned to the heaven and earth fan. Holding the chaotic heavenly box, Imotienga glanced at Bai Ling contemptuously. Blood dripped down, and she almost couldn't control herself from showing her true form. Bai Ling took a deep breath and laughed at herself. All day long, I'll be pecked by the wild goose. I underestimated the cultivators nowadays. I thought I could laugh proudly in the human world just because I was an ancient beast cultivator. I didn't expect there were also talented cultivators with amazing fated chances in the human world. She wiped off the blood on her severed arm, and the wound grew back at a speed visible to the naked eye. She asked, Fellow Daoist, what kind of magic weapon is this? I've been on guard against it, but why didn't I feel it at all? Imotienga shook her head. I'm sorry, I can't answer this question. Bai Ling just asked casually. Whether it was human cultivators or beast cultivators, they wouldn't casually tell others about their magic weapons. She sighed. I originally wanted to give fellow Daoist a quick death, but unfortunately, fellow Daoist is too capable. She waved her hand and said faintly, "Kill her." Although her physical injuries weren't a problem, the golden lightning she cultivated for many years was swallowed by Azure Dragon, so she was seriously injured. Facing more than 10 beast cultivators, Tienga's eyes were piercingly cold. She wasn't afraid at all. At this time, fear had no effect, it would only speed up her own death. Azure Dragon appeared again. After swallowing Bai Ling's golden lightning, its strength had greatly increased. Upon realizing this, Tienga even wanted to thank Bai Ling. Aside from heavenly tribulation, golden lightning was almost nowhere to be found. She could only rely on herself to cultivate bit by bit. Bai Ling's golden lightning had been cultivated for many years, so it was much stronger than hers. The beast cultivators were already approaching. Tienga waved her sleeves, and Azure Dragon continuously spat golden lightning, which turned into a lightning pillar and smashed down, turning the area several miles around them into a world of lightning. Tienga's silhouette was reflected in the lightning. Her sleeves fluttered like a phantom, but her voice was clearly heard. "Everyone, if you want to take my life, you'll have to gamble with your own lives." Qianxi's heart suddenly skipped a beat. He instinctively turned his head and saw a sea of golden lightning suddenly appearing in the sea breeze not far away. "Tinga?" His face was pale. He spread his sword formation and rushed over there. Jing Xingji, who had already met up with them, shouted, "What are you doing?" "Tinga, it's dangerous." He only uttered these 3 words before he rushed over. When the beast cultivators in front of him blocked his way, he attacked without hesitation. A vast sea of swords pressed down. No matter what kind of magic weapon or spell it was, it couldn't withstand its sharpness. A pitch-black, 2-winged beast cultivator blocked his way, and a huge swamp quietly appeared. She took a deep breath and calmed himself down. This was a 10th-rank beast cultivator. If he wanted to break through his obstruction, he had to go all out. The sword formation around him changed. 8 became 4, 4 became 2, 2 became 1. In an instant, thousands upon thousands of sword lights merged into a sword that was burning with flames and had a vague flickering shadow of a vermilion bird. When he was in the foundation building realm, the 3-yang real fire sword was only a powerful flying sword. After he formed his gold core, the 3-yang real fire sword could turn into a sword formation and seize people with its momentum. When he was in the nascent soul realm, he could refine the sword formation into one sword again. This sword gathered the sword formation's power and formed an overwhelming momentum. The 3-yang real fire sword slashed diagonally, directly aiming at Old Black, regardless of the swamp under his feet. It was a sword without any fancy moves, but it had an irresistible momentum. Under this kind of momentum, Old Black didn't dare to underestimate it. The swamp instantly rose and covered the sword light. Roar! With a sharp and clear sound, a white tiger suddenly appeared and pounced on Old Black. Jing Xingji raised his sword and stood in front of it. "Go!" Shi was stunned, but he soon nodded. "Thank you." He put away the 3-yang real fire sword, then flew towards Tienga. At that moment, on a white cloud very close to them, 2 young men were either sitting or lying down. One of them was wearing a dark blue Daoist robe embroidered with gold and had handsome features, while the other was wearing a simple white robe and looked delicate and otherworldly. The battle below was extremely lively, but they were lazily playing chess, only glancing at each other from time to time. "Phew!" The blue-robed young man covered his mouth and yawned. "Aling, aren't you going to help?" Chapter 669. The white-clothed youth raised his eyelids, but his expression remained unchanged. "What help? You can't even defeat such a small number of beast cultivators. You deserve to die." "More than a dozen. It's not that small." Ingot yawned again. He casually put down a chess piece and rubbed a cloud to use as a chair. "This girl is really good. She actually found this place by herself. Alas, thinking back, why was our cultivation path so boring?" "That's you, not me," Zhong Muling said bluntly. "My cultivation path was very exciting. Only you didn't go out many times until you reached the deification realm. Hey, I went out many times. Then you were just watching the show with other people, right? Zhong Muling put down a white chess piece and instantly ate a large number of black chess pieces. He knocked on the chessboard. I ate your dragon. Do you still want to continue? Huh. Ingot glanced at the chessboard and scratched his head. Didn't I do something just now? Zhong Muling grunted but didn't answer. Forget it, I admit defeat. Ingot quickly shook off his doubts and threw in the chess piece. He looked down and said with interest, Oh, isn't this the boy who ate the Yang spiritual bead? He's also in the middle stage of the nascent soul realm. Oh, he's about to break through to the late stage. Not bad, not bad. This speed is much faster than yours back then. He's only a little bit slower than me. He's worthy to be your great-great-grandson-in-law. After talking for a long time, Zhong Muling still remained indifferent. Ingot couldn't help but say, Aling, you really don't want to save her? Zhong Muling looked down at the large area of lightning. After a long time, he finally said, The path of the deification realm doesn't allow other people to interfere. If I interfere, I'll ruin her path. But what if she dies? Zhong Muling said indifferently, Once you step on the path of immortality, you have to face death at any time. It's not the first time she knows this. Since she chose this path, she has to face everything by herself. It's not that serious, right? Ingot was deeply puzzled. Why did he always feel like he didn't cultivate the same path as these people? Cultivation, realm advancement, cultivation, realm advancement? Wasn't that the same thing? Did he have to watch her die to have his own path? Zhong Muling gently shook his head. People like you who live a smooth life won't understand how difficult our path to immortality is, even if you've heard about it. Soul formation cultivators were a power that should not exist in this world, so they were not allowed to interfere in the affairs of the human world. Back then, no matter how many treasures I bestowed upon her, it was only out of love for the younger generation. However, if I were to make a move to save her, she would have to bear this karma herself. She couldn't bear the karma of a deification cultivator. Rather than saving her this time only to have her lose her hope of reaching deification, she might as well resign herself to fate. I think, with her personality, she would rather die like this than not be able to reach the soul formation stage in this life. He shifted his gaze and smirked. Besides, she might not die. Bathed in lightning, Emotienga stared coldly at the beast cultivators rushing towards her. The chaotic heaven transformation box was already hidden in the lightning, waiting for an opportunity to strike. This was a hopeless situation, but until the very end, there was still a chance of survival. She knew that under normal circumstances, if she was besieged by more than 10 beast cultivators of the same realm as her, it would be impossible for her to escape unless she made a prompt decision to abandon her body and escape with her nascent soul. However, the existence of the chaotic heaven transformation box and the sudden surge of golden lightning gave her another option. The shell in her bosom was buzzing and vibrating as if it sensed that another shell was not far away. This kind of wonderful feeling was transmitted to the person who had it. A faint smile appeared on Emotienga's face. From the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of a beast cultivator who was walking into the golden lightning shower. An ice crystal-like box silently appeared beside him, and a faint aura came out. A miserable scream rang out. This time, it was half of the beast cultivator's body that was melted. There was no blood, no scars, only half of the melted body remained. If it weren't for this beast cultivator's prompt decision and Whitey's sharp eyes and quick hands, perhaps even his primordial spirit wouldn't have been able to escape. This change made all the beast cultivators hesitate and stop. They knew this human cultivator had a terrifying magic weapon, but they didn't know it was this terrifying. Behind them, Whitey was exasperated. No matter how powerful she is, she's just a middle-stage nascent soul cultivator. Among you, not to mention the 8th rank, there are so many 9th rank cultivators in the same realm as her. Are you all scared by her? Her golden lightning won't last for long. Just attack more and consume her. Her magic weapon is invisible and intangible. No matter how far you hide, you may be killed. It's better to kill her as soon as possible to ensure your own lives. This encouragement was very successful. Several bold beast cultivators gritted their teeth, took out their magic weapons and attacked. Others seemed to wake up from a dream and understood that they didn't have to attack inside. They could attack from outside to consume her golden lightning. Immediately, magic weapons were taken out and spells were cast everywhere. Tiange groaned as she was hit by many magic weapons and spells. She felt her primordial spirit was injured and was in great pain. But she could only endure it. She had nowhere to retreat. Even if she fled now, she would be killed by so many beast cultivators in an instant. She was only one person. Once she lost her golden lightning, she wouldn't be able to withstand the attacks of so many beast cultivators. At this time, she couldn't help but feel lucky that she had experienced the 5 spirits cultivation body and the heavenly lightning tempering body. Because of this, her endurance was greatly improved and she could stand until now. In pain, the chaotic heaven transformation box continued to attack. Another Yao cultivator fell. They wanted to defend themselves, but they were unable to do so. The rest of the Yao cultivators all displayed their own defensive techniques and stared at the figure in the golden lightning with vigilance. This instantly alleviated the pressure on her. The defensive methods of beast cultivators above the 8th rank. This seems a bit difficult. Tiange observed silently for a while, then stealthily manipulated the chaotic heaven transformation box to sneak towards a beast cultivator whose defense wasn't very tight. The color of the ice flashed. The box was opened, and primal chaos aura escaped silently. The beast cultivator immediately realized something was wrong. He flapped his wings and flew away instantly. In the blink of an eye, the defensive magic weapon on his body melted, and a wound appeared on his right wing. This was the terrifying part of the chaotic heaven transformation box. It could directly melt the body and make them lose the ability to heal. Seeing the wound, the beast cultivator gasped. It was actually so terrifying. If he hadn't moved fast enough just now, wouldn't he have ended up like that beast cultivator with only his primordial spirit left? See? Her magic weapon can be blocked. You guys use defensive magic weapons or high-level defensive spells. Whitey shouted from behind. This discovery made the beast cultivators feel relieved. They no longer hesitated and threw all kinds of magic weapons and spells at the golden lightning without any scruples. Tiange's pressure increased sharply. The golden lightning was broken one by one. More than 10 beast cultivators cast spells at the same time. Even though it was the heavenly tribulation lightning, even though it was suppressed by the Azure Dragon, it could only hold on for a few breaths before it dissipated bit by bit. Tiange didn't have time to worry about the golden lightning. She just hoped to hold on for a little longer until the opportunity appeared and the reinforcements arrived. A fiery red light appeared in the sky. Whitey noticed it immediately and looked up to stare at that flight light. The other party rushed straight without the slightest hesitation. His powerful vermilion bird's breath spread out without any scruples, surging and stirring. "Stop him!" Whitey shouted when he realized that the other party was coming for them. The 5 beast cultivators retreated at the same time and turned to face the flight light. While flying rapidly, that person's sword light was already raised. The vermilion bird's breath flew wantonly, and the vermilion bird's flames carried destructive momentum and pressed down. The 5 beast cultivators went to meet him one after another, giving him an opportunity to take advantage of. He sent the 2 in front flying with lightning speed and forced the 3 in the back to retreat with his powerful vermilion bird's breath, buying himself a little time to rush into the golden lightning. Tiange had already seen him. She saw him rushing in at the risk of getting injured and rushing to her side. She was stunned for a long time before she reached out and grabbed his sleeve. She wanted to wait for reinforcements, but not like this. "Why did you come here alone? Where's Jing Xingji? Where's Ling Yunhe?" she shouted. "They'll be here in a moment," Xianxia said. The sword formation was activated, and the vigorous vermilion bird's flames supported the golden lightning. The golden lightning's collapse was immediately stopped. Was Tiange easy to deceive? Whitey said before that old He went to deal with them, and the number of beast cultivators he led definitely wouldn't be small. If they could break through the heavy encirclement and come to support them, Xianxia wouldn't be alone, and he wouldn't have rushed in directly without caring about anything. She felt her voice trembling. What's the point of doing this? Are you coming to die with me? This was the first time she was so out of control after Demonic Mountain. Their love had never been shallow, but it had always been restrained. Cultivators who aimed at longevity faced a long life, a long lifespan, and a path full of thorns. In this process, their feelings were always inadvertently consumed. If they were too unscrupulous and squandered their feelings early, they would face the end of their love withering and flying away. Therefore, they had always been very rational and loved seriously. They would never hurt each other easily or burn their feelings wantonly. They kept moving forward at the same pace and filled their feelings with more things, such as ideals, goals, friendship. They were very successful. They belonged to the same sect, had the same ideals, made the same friends, and accompanied each other day and night for many years. Even their preferences and habits became the same. They didn't need to say a word to know each other's thoughts, as if they were another version of themselves. However, it was inevitable that such interactions would gradually become dull. They would always feel that even though they would unhesitatingly trust each other, even though they would do everything they could for each other, they would still have to weigh the pros and cons of any situation and place their rationality at the forefront. Just like this time, when she was in a life-and-death situation, she only wanted him to meet with the others and come to save her together. She didn't expect him to come over regardless of everything. Even if he couldn't save her, he would die with her. Are you crazy? Tears that hadn't been seen for a long time fell from her eyes. You said that if I died and you lived, you'd still live well. Why, but I also said that if we die together, I won't regret it. She looked calm as if he was talking about something very ordinary. Tiange, I can't watch your life hanging by a thread and not come to save you, even if we die together. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.